This is 8:14, 8:54. What's going on, Louis Farrelly? Good morning, everybody. As y'all are coming in, shout out your locations in the comments section. Tag yourself. Tell me your location in the comments as y'all are coming in. Brian Miller, Real Estate, checking in from Chicago. Shout out to Chicago. Too cold in Chicago for me, but shout out to the people who enjoy it. I got to tell y'all a story today. Today we're going to do a little bit of story time before we even get into the content. And I also got to tell y'all that in about 30 minutes, roughly, I had to run outside because there is a tow truck coming to get my vehicle because there's an issue that needs to be fixed. But that's connected to the story that I'm about to tell y'all. So I'm about to tell y'all an interesting story. At least I think it's interesting. And we'll see if y'all agree. But as y'all are coming in, shout yourselves out and tell me your locations in the comment section. We are live, Rumble Studio. Good morning. Live on YouTube. Good morning. Live on X. Let me confirm that we are live on X. Let's see. Yes, we are live on X. We are live on Facebook, Facebook.com/Work on Your Game University. For those of you who are Facebook users, we are live on LinkedIn, LinkedIn/Dre All Day. That is active. We are live on Instagram. My name is Dre Baldwin. That's my actual name, DREBALDWIN on Instagram. And we are live on TikTok. Get the likes up. We got 842 likes. What are y'all doing? Y'all sleep? Wake up, TikTok. Get the likes up. There's 81 people in here. We don't even have 1,000 likes. Get the likes up as y'all are checking in on TikTok. Now, before we even get into the material here today, I want to tell y'all a quick story. So I was getting a notification on the dashboard of my vehicle that, and this is important, especially those of you who use AI. If you use any kind of AI bots like Claude or Gemini or Chat GPT or any one of these other ones, this story will help y'all understand something. So I was getting this notification on the dashboard of my vehicle for the last several days that one of the tires in my car was low on the air pressure was too low. So it shows you the air pressure of all the tires. It only shows it to you if there's an issue. So it's showing me one of the tires had an air pressure issue, the back left tire. So I've been telling myself, all right, I guess I got to stop and put air in the tire, but there shouldn't be a reason you need to put air in the tire because this car is brand new. This is like a 2025 car. There's no reason you should need to put air in this tire. But I just had to replace the tire 2 months ago. I had to replace the tire, and it was like $600 replacing this tire because I had allegedly ran over a nail. Well, I did run over a nail. They showed me the picture. So I'm thinking there's no way I ran over 2 nails in 2 months. That's not possible. I don't remember how many times in my life I run over a nail. No way I ran over a nail again. So I'm like, all right, let me stop and get some air. So I'm at the gas station this morning, put gas in the car. I see the little air pump thing. So I go over there to put air in the tire. I'm putting air in the tire, and the tire is not taking any air. No air is going into the tire. And this other guy, I guess he was waiting to put air in his tire. So he got out and he was, I guess, trying to help me. And he was telling me yo, something's wrong with your valve. Because he went and tried one of the other tires and the air was going in. You can see the number going up, on the air pumps. It tells you set the number that you want it to be. And then it tells you what the number actually is. And he tried it in one of my other tires. He's like, well, this one's working. It looks like might be something wrong with your tire. So then he said, the little valve piece looks like it's broken. And he was right. The valve piece was broken. So I start calling around. First of all, the tire is now damn near flat. I was 2 miles from home. So I had to drive with the hazard lights on. I'm driving 10 miles per hour to get home. So I get home and I'm reaching out to mobile tire shop places, right? I'm just telling y'all this story because this will connect not to what we're talking about here today overall, but for those of you who use AI, pay attention. So I'm driving and I'm calling all these places that are like mobile tire shops. And there's a bunch of them around here. So I'm calling these places and I'm telling them what the issue is. Can you fix it? First thing, any of you who are in service-based businesses, your customer service can't be terrible. A lot of these places that I call, mind you, this is like 6:45 a.m. It ain't that early. I mean, it's not late, but it ain't that early. 6:45 in the morning. Most people are awake by this time of day. These people sounded like they were asleep. And the way that they're talking, I'm like, I don't even trust this person. The way that they're talking, they might be the best tire replacement person in the world, but the way they were talking, they did not sound very professional. Let's just put it that way. So I'm not talking. I'm hanging up on these people. And then what I do is I plug into Chat GPT. Chat GPT is usually pretty good at assessing things. So I'm asking Chat GPT, hey, there's some issue going on with my tire and it's not taking in air. And I explained what I already explained to you all. And it says, yeah, it sounds like one of the valves is broken. And the thing is, in certain cars, there's a tire pressure measurement system. So it's not just put tire in the car. It's not just put air in the tire. It's a measurement system, which means the tire is connected through electronics to the actual dashboard of the car. So you can't just replace it with anything you get from AutoZone. You have to actually have it programmed properly and all this stuff. So it's saying you got to have the proper programming, et cetera, et cetera. And now I'm calling around the places that can fix a certain type of vehicle. Certain types of vehicles that have this, it's called the TPMS system, tire pressure measurement system, whatever it's called. I'm calling around places and I finally get somebody on the phone that sounded professional. He sounded like they were awake. And this guy's like, send me a picture of what you have, because he was asking me questions that I couldn't answer. And he's like, I told him I'd send him a picture. He said, all right, well, hang up, send me a picture. I'll get right back to you, tell you what we can do. I send him pictures of the little piece, the little valve that came off, the tire, all this stuff. I tell him what kind of car it is, all this stuff. He's like, yeah, we can fix it. It'll be $140. That's what he told me. $140. We'll come to you. We'll fix it. We'll program it, all this stuff. Actually, I asked him, can you program the tire? And he didn't answer. He didn't respond to my text. And like 15 minutes go by and I'm coming from the gym. So I go shower, get dressed, all this stuff. He still hadn't responded. I sent him another text and said, can you do this? He said, I can. And I'm like, why TF did you not respond? I'm a customer trying to I didn't say that to him, but I'm thinking to myself, this is giving me pause. So then I'm thinking about, all right, now I may have this guy come, pay him $140 to fix the vehicle. So then I'm telling my wife what happened about the car. And she's like, wait a minute, maybe the dealership will fix that because the car should be under warranty. So then I go back to Chat GPT. She's like, maybe the car will just get fixed. You don't have to go do all that. And I go back to Chat GPT, right? And check this out. I go back to Chat GPT and say, well, maybe this issue, because it's just a little valve. It's not like I hit something. It's like the valve is loose. And for whatever reason, it is defective. And this car is only like 8 months old. There's no reason that thing should be breaking in 8 months. So I go to ChatGPT and say, well, since the valve is loose, couldn't it be possible that because the car is under warranty, that they would just fix it instead of me having to pay for it? Why would I even have to pay for this, being that I didn't do anything to make this happen? ChatGPT says, yeah, Dre, you're right. Being that it's the valve, it's not like this is normal wear and tear. It's not like the brake pads or the tires, which is normal wear and tear because you're using the vehicle. The valve piece is not something that just normally breaks. So how about you call Mercedes? And they gave me the number for roadside assistance. And I called Mercedes. And of course, they got some person outsourced to Indonesia taking the call, but they spoke good enough English. And we got the whole thing. And in about 20 minutes, the tow truck's going to come here. It's going to take the car to the dealership. They're going to look at it. They're probably going to fix it. They probably are not going to charge me for it. And then I'm going to have to take an Uber or a Lyft or something that they pay for me to go get my car fixed. What does all this have to do with any of you? Those of you who use artificial intelligence, this is the thing you need to understand. I'm going to write an article about this as well as to go along with the story that I just told you. I'm going to write a whole article about this. I'll put those out on my email list. You want to be on my email list, go to the link in my profile. There's a button there for you to get on my email list. And AI is designed to keep you actively using the app. For those of you who don't know the actual use of AI, why it's designed, what it's designed to do. AI is designed to keep you on the app and to keep you using it the same way social media is designed to keep you on the app and keep you using it. So in social media, the way that they keep you using the app is through the algorithm. In other words, they show you more stuff that they think, based on their knowledge of you, that you're going to be interested in. So if you keep looking at animals, they're going to show you more animals. You keep looking at girls with their asses out, they're going to show you more of that. Whatever you're interested in, they're going to show you more of that same thing, because the algorithm has decided, it's deduced that if it keeps showing you certain types of things, you will stay using the app, you'll stay engaged. And the more you use the app, the more time you spend on it, the more money they can make. That's their business model. AI software is designed to keep you using the software. In other words, you ask it a question, it's going to answer it, then it's going to give you a prompt to try to keep you asking questions, to keep you using it and keep you engaged and keep you active. Their whole goal is to keep you active on the app. Why do they want to keep you active on the app? Because when you use software like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or any one of these, they are taking in every single thing that you type into it and it's using it to learn. So it basically learns the more you use it. It learned a lot before you started using it, and it keeps learning the more that you use it. And it learns more about you, it becomes more personalized, it becomes more customized. Here's the issue with AI software. It is designed to validate your ideas. So any idea that you have, wait a minute, did somebody just call me? Wait a minute, let me see something. 253, no. So the tow truck person called me at first, then they text me, and I just noticed I had a missed call, but that wasn't them. So AI software is designed to validate whatever position you have. So if you get into some AI software and you ask it a question that's actually a bad question, generally it's going to validate your position and tell you that you should do what you're thinking about doing. So when I said, hey, maybe I need to call some mobile tire service to come fix my tire, it said, that's a good idea. You got to find the right type that can fix this type of car, et cetera, et cetera. I was about to spend $140 on this. Then when I came back and said, well, wait a minute, maybe this is under warranty. Maybe it can fix it without me having to pay anything. It said, yeah, that's right. The thing is, had I not asked that second question, it would have just had me go pay $140. This is the issue with AI, folks. AI cannot think for you. AI can supplement your thinking, but if you're not thinking and you go to AI and ask it a question, it's pretty much going to validate most of your position. Now, if you say something crazy, if you say, AI, should I jump off a building? It's probably not going to say yes to that. But if your question sounds reasonable, it does sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't ask better quality questions, such as, hey, before you pay for this repair of your car, have you checked if your car is under warranty? Have you checked if this could be fixed without you having to pay for it? AI did not. ChatGPT did not ask that question. A human being would ask that question. ChatGPT would not ask that question. So all of you need to be very careful when you're using AI thinking that it is replacing thought. It does not replace thought. It supplies information based on the questions that you ask, just like Google, just like all other social media. It gives you what you ask for. If you ask for it, it'll give you more of it. Even if you know you need to stop scrolling and looking at ass on the internet, if you keep looking at it, it's going to keep giving it to you. Now, if you stop looking at it, then it will stop giving it to you. But if you keep looking at it, it's not going to tell you this is a bad idea. Why? Because its business model is to keep you engaged. Everybody understand that? Okay, end of the story time. Let's get into the topic here today. I told you I was going to shout you all out in the, tell me your locations as y'all checking in. I might not be able to shout everybody out because I went into the story first. But as y'all are coming in, shout yourselves out. And by the way, on the heels of that story I just told you, I'm about 17 minutes away. The tow truck driver should be here in a minute. I'm going to have to run outside and make sure that they have what they need so they can tow my vehicle and get it fixed. So I will just pause when that happens, and y'all will just be sitting here in silence until I deal with the tow truck driver, and then I'm going to come back. So I'm expecting them to be here in about 17 minutes, the tow truck driver. So tell me your locations as y'all are coming in. I'll shout you out. Nikki from Connecticut, Latoya Jackson from Chicago, ATL, Georgia, off from Plantation today. Great rising. What Plantation? There's a town in Florida called Plantation. I think you mean your job. Night Owl 1, good morning from Florida. Yes, tap the screen as you come in. Traditional all day. Good to see you. True Sheets said to rub that head. Now, True Sheet, I don't know if you're a male or a female, but if you're a male, cut that shit out. If you're a female, then I accept the comment. Sherry 1967 said, listening as always from Riverview, Michigan. Good morning, Sherry. Good morning. Good to see you. Courtney, good morning to you. Ra said, Lil Woody. Who's Lil Woody? I don't know who that is. So you have LOL, so I don't know. I guess that's a joke, but I don't know who you're talking about. Dwayne Mitchell, Detroit is in the building. Good morning. Latoya Jackson, TPMS. Yes, that's the name of the system, any car that it can tell you how much air is in your tires from the dashboard. This is some relatively new stuff. These electronic cars. Relax said, Dre all day. You got a question mark as if you didn't know it was me. You know it's me. You know who I am. Don't act like you don't know. Latoya Jackson said, yeah, tire pressure monitoring system. Okay, is that what it stands for? That's correct. Relax said, I haven't seen you in years. Well, where you been? You been asleep? I never went away. Now, I'm not in the same places that I was before doing the same things, but I never went away. I've been here. But I'm glad you're here. Maui Marzuri, the blessings of having a wife. Yes. Okay, fair enough. I give you that point. Fair enough. Yeah, she saved me $140 today. Stoney Santana, Wishful Wednesdays. Me and Lisa said, I'm a truck driver. We've been screaming about foreigners and English for a long time. Yes, that's the topic here today. We're going to get to that in a minute. Aaron said, mine is so random, as am I. You're what? Traditional said, that's right. I had to say I'm no good. Okay, fair enough. The quality of the questions is a big thing when it comes to artificial intelligence, folks. You ask it a dumb question, it will generally validate your dumb question. So Lisa said, Grok doesn't validate. It is too liberal at the moment. Elon is aware. So I see people saying that. People said that Grok was too conservative. Then they said it's too liberal. The thing is, Grok has marketed itself as it's about what's happening in real time, and it sources a lot of its knowledge from what's happening in X, which I told you all is the town square of the internet. I still believe that. The issue with Grok is kind of what you're saying, and other people are saying the opposite, Lee and Lisa, is that it's going too far in one direction or the other direction. But I get what you're saying. I use ChatGPT more than I use Grok. IT Burnout said, I also always tell AI to provide alternatives that I have not thought of. Yes, good point. Everybody needs to do that. Airbender 37,000 from Atlanta. Good morning, Atlanta. Mara checking in for Virginia. Billy said the algorithms keep you in the loop. Yes, and they all work off algorithms. So y'all all got to be very careful. OG McCoy checking in from Chicago. Shout out to Chicago. Heavy in here today. User 784 from San Antonio. Ashley from Pennsylvania. What part of Pennsylvania? Shout out to Pennsylvania. J7HR, Sunrise, Florida. Shout out to Sunrise. When was I in Sunrise? I took my son to the Monster Jam. That was in Sunrise. That was the same arena where the Florida Panthers hockey team plays. Shout out to Sunrise. Nice place. Cindy, Kentucky. Akron guy for us. Greg in Ohio. Good morning. Sherry from Mesa, Arizona. Brenda from Oregon. Nice, California state Newsom has destroyed. Yeah, we talked about that yesterday. Christine, checking in from Charlotte. Good morning. Ron from Lima, Ohio. Great Rising said his job. Okay. I'm glad you're off the plantation today. You get a day off. All right. Spartansburg, South Carolina. Stuart Winslow. That 210 Shell. Michelle checking in from Texas. IT Burnout says North Carolina has entered the chat. Latoya said, I know. I used to be a sales rep for Michelin. Okay. So, I didn't know what it was called, but I became very familiar with the TPMS this morning. Nikki said strawberry cheesecake was funny. Oh, don't worry. We got it. I still got it. So I'm going to tell y'all all that in the ground rules of what we're going to do here in a moment. Louisville, Kentucky's in the building. Let me shout out a few more people before we get into the material here. Lee said, please make sure you put the correct info on the topic. Well, we'll see, Lee and Lisa. You can tell me if I got it right or wrong. Now, Lee and Lisa, you're truck drivers, right? So you're probably going to have more context as far as the industry than I will. But I'm going to tell the context of the story. The story, I will make sure I got it right. Now, the context of how to actually drive a truck. Now, you're asking the wrong person. Carla, Indiana, good morning to you. Lee and Lisa said, Florida should have never released the driver. He unalived people. We don't get into that, Lee and Lisa. Don't get ahead of me. Joey Spag said, good morning from Kennebunkport. Where is that? And you put a little crab there. So what is that? Is that Massachusetts? Are you up by the you in New England? I never heard of that town. Where you at? Saratoga County, New York. Take a ride with Tom. Shout out to Saratoga. Don't they do horse racing there? Is that where they do horse racing? Chelsea from Denver. Good morning. Carlos from Schaumburg, Illinois. Good morning. Me and Lisa said truck driver is supposed to get in a D-rug and alcohol test within 1 hour after the wreck. I wonder if they did that. Ashley, Altoona, PA. I know who you are. Good morning, Ashley. Good to see you. Wayne Robinson, Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio. Good morning. Tom said, I have a roll-off truck driver in New York State. What's a roll-off truck driver? That means the car just rolls off the bat? Is that what that means? Dow Johnson from Lima, Ohio. Good morning. We got two people from Lima, Ohio at the same time? Maine, that's what I thought. That's what I thought it was. When I see the crabs, or is that a lobster or a crab? I think that was a lobster. Lobsters come from up there, right? At least that's what I think they do. I'm not a big seafood eater. J7, hello from Sunrise. Good morning. We got Ellsworth, Wisconsin, Shushan 87. Okay. So let me actually tell y'all again, for those of you who didn't hear me earlier, I have a tow truck driver coming to get my vehicle to fix this damn tire that they should fix under warranty. It should not be any money out of my pocket. They pay for the Uber or the Lyft for me to go get the damn car after they fix it. So in about 10 minutes, that driver should be here. He told me he was going to call me. He said he was 40 minutes away, ETA. I'm guessing he's probably going to be late. So I'll say probably 50 minutes. But according to his time, we're about 10 minutes away. So when he comes, I'm going to run outside so he can go get the car. I'm going to keep the live going. I'm just going to run outside and I'm going to come back. So it's going to be about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes of nothingness until I come back. And then we're going to pick up wherever we leave off. And the topic here today is about a couple illegals. This happened in August 12th. So today is the 20th. So it's about a week ago. So what happened on the turnpike here in Florida? The turnpike in Florida, 3 people passed away because a semi-truck driver made an illegal U-turn across a restricted median, and he caused a minivan to slam into the trailer, and 3 people passed away. Now, what makes this tragic is, of course, the 3 people passed away, but the 3 people who passed away were not the ones who did the illegal turn. And Will Avila said, "Want to let you know you're going to create. I'm trying to create an AI straw man meme in rap style. LOL. All right, that's what's up. I'm gonna get to all the memes and all that stuff. The sound effects. We came across some sound effects yesterday. So for those of you who weren't here yesterday, we now have sound effects for our awards that I give out during the commentary section. So those of you who haven't been here, you weren't here yesterday, I'm gonna introduce that in a moment. But let me just give the intro to this topic first. So the 3 people who passed away were drivers riding regular cars on the highway doing what they're supposed to do. These guys who were driving the semi, the driver's name is Harjinder Singh. That's his name, Harjinder Singh. And he attempted an illegal U-turn across a restricted median, and then a minivan crashed into the trailer. Now, Singh, this guy, he entered the United States illegally in 2018. Okay, so here's your mention of Donald Trump for the day. Donald Trump came into politics saying, we are going to get the people who don't belong here without the proper documentation out of the country. This guy had improper documentation, no documentation. He entered the country 7 years ago. He's still here. And he's driving a commercial truck. How does this happen? Let's talk about it. So he was initially denied a work permit under the Trump administration. He was supposed to be, deported. And then the deportation got slowed down. It got gummed up, the whole process. Then this guy, Mr. Singh, he claimed asylum. He didn't want to get sent back to his country. He claimed asylum. And basically to claim asylum, all you have to claim is, long story short, that you fear danger or harm if you go back to your country. And if someone claims that, according to the rules on the books of the United States of America, that's enough that your deportation is delayed. Doesn't mean it's denied or it won't happen, but it gets delayed because you said, if you send me back to the Bahamas, then I'm worried about something happening to me. Bahamas is a bad example. You send me back to Brazil, I'm worried about something happening to me, so don't send me to Brazil. That will delay the process, which may buy you some time to stay in America. This guy claimed asylum. He claimed danger if he got sent back home. Now, what happened is he's sitting basically in limbo. So we're not going to deport you yet, but when it's time to deport you, we'll come get you. They released him back into the country. Now, under the Biden administration in 2021, because he was supposed to get deported under Trump, he claimed asylum, so they couldn't, by law, they couldn't deport him, at least to the country they were going to send him. All right, my phone's ringing right now. This might be the tow truck guy, so hold on, everybody. Hello. Okay, are you at the car? You know where to go? All right, I'll be out there in 1 minute. All right, thanks. All right, so the tow truck driver is here. So everybody, hold on. We're gonna pick up right where we left off. Give me 2 minutes. Let me take care of this tow truck driver. We'll be right back. Talk amongst yourselves. Be right back. All right, I'm back. I'm back. I'm back. I am back. I am back. Okay, that didn't take long. So, interestingly enough, the guy was early. Tow truck driver got here early. That's the benefit to doing things early and doing things off peak. By the way, those of you who want to get things done faster, do it early in the morning, where there's less traffic. People tend to be more alert because they haven't gone the whole day being aggravated by other people, and people tend to move pretty quick. So this guy was actually 5 minutes faster than he said he would be. So they're going to take the vehicle. Now, the next question is how long is it going to take him to fix the damn car? Being that this is not a scheduled service, I'm predicting I'm not going to have a car all day. That's my prediction. I'm going to be getting this car at like 5 o'clock in the evening. That's my pessimistic prediction. But let's be optimistic. Let's say maybe we get the car back by lunch. We shall see. But anyway, let's get back to where I was at. So we're talking about this guy, Mr. Singh. His name is Harjinder Singh. He claimed asylum. Under the Biden administration in 2021, he tried to get a work permit. The Biden administration gave him a work permit. Okay. The Biden administration gave this guy a work permit, even though he was here illegally and he was supposed to have been deported. So with that approval, he obtained, because he had a work permit, now he went and got a CDL, known as a commercial driver's license, and he got it in 2 states. He got 2 commercial driver's licenses. He got one in California, and he got one in the state of Washington. Now, that doesn't sound like that bad of an idea. If someone has a work permit and they apply for a license and they pass the test, then no problem, right? That sounds pretty normal. I mean, the companies that give out commercial driver's licenses are not there to question whether or not you were supposed to be deported or not. That's not their business. You have a work permit. That means somebody in the United States said this guy is able to work. Now, with that work permit, he got the licenses. Here's the problem. He failed federal standards after he got the licenses. There are federal standards for getting a CDL, known as a commercial driver's license. That allows you to drive trucks. He failed the standards. So in a post-crash investigation by the FMCSA, that's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, Mr. Singh, check this out, everybody. Mr. Harjinder Singh, he scored 2 out of 12 on an English proficiency questions. So they gave him questions about his ability to understand and communicate in English. Out of 12, he got a 2. 2 out of 12. Let's do the math on that, folks. Everybody went to school, right? So let me see something. All right, so I'm getting a text from the car dealership asking, did the guy get there yet? And I said, yes. All right. So 2 out of 12. Let's do the math on that. That one I can't quite do on my head. So 2 out of 12. That's a 17%, 16.6 technically. We'll round up and give him a 17. All y'all went to school, right? You got a 17 on the test. What grade is that? All right, so this guy got a 2 out of 12 on the English proficiency question. And you're asked to identify basic road signs. They show you 4 different road signs. This guy got 3 of the road signs wrong. He got 3 of the signs wrong. So they show him 4 basic road signs. So this is stuff like yield and stop. And he probably got stop right. I think the other 3 he got wrong, whatever they were. He got 3 out of 4 wrong. So it shows that this guy could not meet the minimum legal requirements for commercial driving. And maybe it was something that was about commercial vehicles. Maybe the signs were stuff like that. So he didn't meet the minimum legal requirements. And he still got a license. Again, the state of Washington gave him a license. The state of California gave him a license. Yesterday, what did we talk about? Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom was in a debate with Ron DeSantis. Remember that debate that they had, Newsom against DeSantis? And they basically were trashing each other based on the quality of each state. Well, this is something that Ron DeSantis can hold Gavin Newsom accountable for, and he is saying stuff because Ron DeSantis, according to what I heard, Ron DeSantis is trying to get this guy, Mr. Singh, because right now he's being held in California. He's trying to get this guy brought back to Florida to be held accountable in the state of Florida rather than being held accountable in the state of California. And he, of course, is attacking the state of California for this, which he should be. And Gavin Newsom is, of course, what do y'all think Gavin Newsom's saying about this? Just give me a guess in the comments. What do y'all think Gavin Newsom is saying about this situation? Because we all know, had the shoe been on the other foot, had a guy been granted a CDL in Florida, then went to California and 3 people lost their lives, what do you think Gavin Newsom would be saying? He'd be saying a whole lot. He'd be trashing Ron DeSantis. Well, what do you think he's saying now that is the opposite? Anybody know what Gavin Newsom is saying? There's an answer to what he's saying. What is Gavin Newsom saying right now that this happened? The license was granted in California. This guy, it was 2 guys, but one guy obviously is just driving. One guy's driving. And 3 people passed away in Florida with a license they got from California that they should never had. Gavin Newsom is saying a whole bunch of nothing. Yes, he is saying nothing. So IT burnout, you say he's defending him. No, Gavin Newsom, that wouldn't be a good idea. He's saying nothing. Liz, yeah, exactly. He ain't saying nothing. He's not saying a damn thing. He is quiet. Why? And this is another reason why y'all shouldn't trust politicians, because they will make a whole lot of noise when they got something that makes them look good and their opponent look bad, and they are radio silent and hard to find when something that makes them look bad. They just get quiet. This is a lack of accountability. Accountability cuts both ways. You can't just be accountable when things are working. You're accountable even when they're not. But I digress. So Mr. Singh, he's now charged with 3 counts of vehicular offing, homicide. He has an ICE detainer. That's Tom Holman and company, Kristi Noem and them. They're going to hold this guy in, so he ain't going anywhere. And of course, he's facing deportation proceedings. So this guy's probably gone. He's probably never going to breathe free air in the United States of America ever again, especially after this. Now, the crash has fueled heated national debate. Of course, Ron DeSantis, as I said, blasting California for enabling an asylum recipient to obtain a CDL. That's what Ron DeSantis is saying. He's the governor of Florida, by the way. Those who know who he is. Ron DeSantis, current Republican governor of the state of Florida. He is saying California should not allow an asylum recipient to obtain a commercial driver's license. I'm assuming, without him saying it, or I'm assuming this is the case by context, that in the state of Florida, you cannot get a CDL if you have asylum. I'm assuming that's the reason why he's drawing this juxtaposition. While California officials are countering, this is what they said, not Newsom himself, but California officials are saying that the license was issued legally once federal work authorization was granted. And I say they're actually correct. The state of California is correct. They said that this guy got a license because he was granted federal work authorization. And according to the information I got, that this guy failed the test after he got his license. It wasn't to get the license. It was after he got the license, he failed the test. So the question is, how lenient is the licensing process in the state of California for this guy to get a license when he couldn't even, first of all, he can't communicate in English. And secondly, he got the road signs wrong. How do you get a license without testing for those things? How does that happen, California? I know we got some California people here. And we got some Newsom supporters here. Can y'all explain this? Can you defend this? How is that possible? How do you get a CDL and you can't communicate in English? How do you get a work permit? You can't communicate in English. And California officials counter, again, the license is given legally because of the federal work authorization that he was given by the government, United States government. I actually would put this on the United States government more than I put it on the state of California. Just in this context alone. So just in this context alone, I'm going to put this on the U.S. government. Why? Because the U.S. government caught this guy and were supposed to deport him in 2018. They didn't do it. They didn't deport him. He claimed asylum, and he was basically left in deportation limbo, which actually is a good thing for a person trying to get deported. Limbo usually means you're stuck in between something and you can't get anything done. But this kind of deportation limbo is good because that means you get to hang out in the United States, move about the country as you wish, and it's not imminent that you're going to get kicked out. So basically, you just hang out and do what you want to do. This is what Donald Trump campaigned against Hillary and Joe Biden on and Kamala, actually all 3 elections. He campaigned on this. In 2016, they're not sending their best. In 2020, we're going to keeping people out of here. And in 2024, look what they did to the border for the last 3 years. This is what Donald Trump ran. You want to say Donald Trump ran on something? This and the economy are the two main things he ran on. And in 2024, the Biden-Harris campaign, whichever one you want to give credit to, they served this up to Donald Trump on a platter. Easy. This was an easy home run. It's like T-ball. They just, you know, with T-ball, they just put the ball right there and you just hit it. You don't even have to hit the pitch. You just hit it. They served this one up on a platter for Donald Trump by keeping that border open. And then anything that goes wrong with someone who came across this border without proper documentation, all he has to do is use it against him. Case in point. They just served him up an easy one right here. Now, this was a campaign cycle. Like, imagine there was an election in November. It's late August right now. This would be easy work for the Republican Party. Any Republican candidate that this happened right here. This is terrible timing for the Democrats. So the White House, they're the ones who allowed this guy to, first of all, not be deported. Secondly, allow him to get a work permit. And then he goes to a state where it's allowed and he gets a CDL. So the White House initially suggested that Donald Trump's policies created this quote unquote asylum limbo. So they try to blame Donald Trump. And this is the previous White House officials. But records show that Biden's administration granted this guy this asylum-based work authorization in 2021. So this guy claimed asylum, i.e., don't send me out of the country because I'm afraid for my life. Let's just, long story short, that's what asylum is. I'm afraid something bad is going to happen to me, so don't kick me out of the country, even though you're supposed to kick me out of the country. Don't do it because something bad might happen to me. So USA said, okay, we won't kick you out because you're afraid something bad is going to happen to you. You can stay here in the United States. They allowed him work authorization because he says, well, if I'm going to stay here, I might as well work and get a job. They said, okay, you can get a job. And that's how he ended up getting the CDL. So now this has become a flashpoint over immigration policy, state licensing standards, public safety, federal accountability, and raising questions on how someone so unqualified is allowed to drive an 18-wheeler truck. It's not like he was driving a Volkswagen Jetta. This guy's driving an 18-wheeler truck, and someone hired him to do this. He can't even speak English. This is what happened. All right, this is the context of what we're going to talk. This is the backdrop of the topic here today. All right, so everybody understands that. Let me introduce myself for those who don't know who I am. My name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre all day, former 9-year professional athlete, author of a few books. I run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our job here is to help you with command of the room. You want to step into a space and have command of it, not because people know who you are, not because you're an influencer on the internet, not because you do lives on TikTok, not because you are famous. They only have to know who you are. Never seen you before. When you walk into a room, you have the energy, the presence, the aura that makes people know that you're somebody. Where does that come from? That comes from discipline. That comes from execution. That comes from having the right systems in place. And it comes from handling your business and producing results. Our program, our systems, our company is all about doing that. You want to learn more about doing that, then just click the links that you see in my profile. I'll tell you more about how you can at least get entry level into what we're doing here at Work on Your Game at the end of this live stream. Now, one thing I will tell you is that usually when we're doing, wait a minute, I got another text message. So this text message says, so roadside assistance says, we got your car. Your provider has secured your tow. So they're towing my car right now to the dealership, the service department. Roadside benefits include a credit of up to $100 towards a Lyft ride. So basically I can get a Lyft ride. If I get a Lyft ride, I'll probably get me a black Lyft ride since it's $100 towards the ride. So they're going to pay me. They're going to pay for that ride, and I'm going to get the most expensive Lyft that they have because they sent me a car that, for whatever reason, had a defective valve, and they're going to pay for that shit. So I'm going to make sure I tax them for having me go through this inconvenience and several hours of not having access to my vehicle. They should be paying me instead of giving me a car for free. But anyway, back to what I was talking about. When I go through the content, which I'm about to do, I'm going to go through the points, and I'm going to tell you what I see and the pro and con points of this whole situation. After that, we're going to get to the comments. That's when you all can actually, well, you're already leaving comments, but I will read your comments. I will respond to your comments. Now, for those of you who are familiar, y'all know that there are some common things that happen when I'm reading these comments. Common things that happen when I'm reading these comments is, one, is we often get the common logical fallacy called the straw man. There's actually 3 common fallacies that come up in these comments. And I don't mind if you use a fallacy. If you do, I'm just going to call you out on it. Now, it's not personal. I'm not going to personally attack you, but we are going to make fun of your use of a logical fallacy. The most common logical fallacy is called the straw man. The straw man is when someone misrepresents your position or their claim of your position, and then they throw it back at you in the form of incredulity, sarcasm, ridicule, or a question. And if you do that, I call it out as a straw man. We give out an award. We call it the straw man of the day. I actually give out multiple awards. And now we have a soundboard. So now if you do the straw man, you're going to hear this sound. Listen. Strawberry cheesecake. Let me play it again. This is the sound we'll play anytime somebody uses straw man. Strawberry cheesecake. Okay, so that's the straw man of the day sound. So anytime you hear that, that means somebody just used a straw man. And I will read it so y'all know exactly what it is. Now, if someone tries to use the ad hominem, this is the next most common one, is the ad hominem. Ad hominem translates to the person. That's what it actually means in English. To the person is when someone disagrees with you or your point, but instead of actually attacking the point, which is what you should do, they attack the person. So often a straw man and ad hominem are often mixed together. So an ad hominem is somebody says something like, oh, you think you're smart because you're wearing a suit. Somebody says that almost every day. If you say that, that's an ad hominem. And if you do that, you're going to hear this sound.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
You want to hear it again?
Is that like a personal attack or something?
All right, so I found this in the same soundboard app that I just downloaded yesterday. So if you use the ad hominem, you'll hear this.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
All right, so that's the ad hominem one. Now, the other one is the appeal to ridicule. This is when someone tries to use a crying face emoji or a laughing emoji or LOL or LMAO as a way of trying to be sarcastic because they're also using a straw man like, oh, this guy thinks this. That's not what I think. Then they'll use LOL like they're making fun. Like they claim to be making fun. That's called the appeal to ridicule. So you're trying to use ridicule as a way of getting your point across when it's not even the point that I made. If you do that, then you'll hear this sound.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
All right, so if you use the appeal to ridicule, you'll hear this one.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
All right, that's the appeal to ridicule. Until further notice, these are the common sounds that you're going to hear. This app has a lot of sounds, but what I was thinking about yesterday after I ended the live, I said, let me just have some ready so I can push them easily. And these are the ones I hear most often. So the straw man. Strawberry cheesecake. The ad hominem.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
And the appeal to ridicule.
I like your funny words, Magic Man.
All right, everybody understand the rules here and how things are going to go? Good. Now, I didn't get to the comments yet. Let me get to the content first, then we'll get to the comments. So, federal law allegedly prevented Mr. Singh to apply for a CDL because his work permit was approved in 2021, meaning his license issuance did follow standard procedure. In other words, so here's the thing about the government, folks, and this is what I say about the United States government all the time. This government that we have in America is extremely slow, is extremely inefficient, and is highly bureaucratic. What does that mean? How does it relate to the topic here today? Is that federal law says this guy can actually apply for a CDL because he has a work permit based on asylum. So the license that he got was allowed. The state of California did not actually do anything wrong. So what Ron DeSantis is saying to hold California accountable, quote unquote, it's more on a morality level than it is a legal level. Legally, California didn't do anything wrong. But what I tell you all the time about politics, it's all about optics. It's about how things look. It's not about what's factually true. It's about how things look. This makes California look really bad because they issued this guy a license. He couldn't speak damn English. And he gets in the truck. Now, mind you, is he the only person in America right now who probably can't speak English who's driving a commercial truck? No, there probably are hundreds of them doing it. But this guy went and did something stupid. 3 people lost their lives. And now he's under the spotlight. So the optics of it is what matters, is not the reality. The reality is hundreds of him driving around the country right now. The optics is we know about this guy because of what happened. And that's when it becomes a news item. And this is just the way that it works. This is another reason why I tell you all that facts don't matter. Because the fact is this kind of guy was driving around 3 days ago or 3 months ago. Nobody cared. It's the fact that he crashed into somebody. Now it matters because he got this license in 2021. This guy's been driving trucks for 4 years. Did any of you know who he was? No, we only found out because he crashed or somebody crashed into him and now 3 people are dead. Now everybody's talking about this guy. So this is the reason I'm bringing up the government and saying it's very ineffective and inefficient and bureaucratic is that loopholes like this exist. How does something like this even happen? How you can't speak English, but you get a license to drive a truck? How is it you can't recognize basic traffic signs, the little signs on the street? You can't recognize what they are and what they mean, Yet somehow, some way, you have a license to drive an 18-wheeler semi. How does that happen? Well, it happens in the United States, only in America. All right, this is allowed in America. Legally, this guy can have this license. So nobody technically did anything wrong. That's the problem. No one said the government didn't do anything wrong. California didn't do anything wrong. And this guy, until he crashed that truck, he didn't do anything wrong until he made this illegal U-turn. How you making a U-turn in an 18-rower truck? That's stupid. But he did it. And now knowing what we know about him, makes sense that he would do something dumb. But for 4 years, he didn't do anything dumb. He got the license in 2021, folks. Y'all understand what I'm explaining to you here? So his failure on English and road sign tests highlights a massive disconnect between licensing processes and actually safety competence, which shows that the system is broken. That's the issue. The entire system is broken. Again, no one technically did anything. The government didn't do anything wrong. ICE didn't do anything wrong. California didn't do anything wrong. Florida didn't do anything wrong. And until he crashed his truck, the driver didn't do anything wrong. The system is so broken that you can have somebody who can't speak English and can't read road signs, having a license, and illegally driving around with a job. That's the problem with the system, is that this is even allowed to be legal. That's the problem. So he couldn't communicate in English. He couldn't read the road signs, yet he still had a license legally. That means the licensing process is not tethered to safety competence. That's a broken system. Does everybody understand this? That's how broke our system is. It's that you don't have to have any type of safety competence or understanding of the English language, yet you can still get a license. Now, there are several angles from which we could talk about this. And a lot of people brought this up when Tom Homan and crew, ICE, when they really started getting busy around January, February, earlier this year, was why are they only going to places like some little small mom and pop restaurant or construction sites, but they're not going to bigger places where there may be other illegal people working? Right? They don't go to an Amazon warehouse that would affect Jeff Bezos. They're not going to Silicon Valley and looking at the Facebook and Google headquarters. There may be people working illegal in those places as well. They're not hunting those people down because they're trying to protect the Bernie Sanders term, oligarchs. All right, they're trying to protect the oligarchs, but they'll go after the mom and pop people working, but they won't go after those other people. Illegal is illegal. And this is the issue with the system, is that, and a lot of people said this when Tom Homan first got busy, is that they're only going after the people who they think they can get away with going after. They're not going after everybody equally. And that's a fair criticism. It's a very fair criticism. If you're going to have a rule, then the rule applies to everybody. You can't just pick and choose when you apply a rule. If you pick and choose, the application of a rule is not a rule. It's a suggestion. It's a preference. If you apply a rule all the time, then it's a real rule. But if you pick and choose when you're going to apply a rule, you don't really have a rule. All right, you got something else, but it ain't a rule. So California and Washington issued licenses to this gentleman in accordance with federal verification systems, demonstrating that they did follow protocol. They did not act outside of the law. Again, everybody, this is a loophole in a broken system. And when a system is broken, there are a ton of loopholes if you know what to look for, and or you just blindly find them. I don't know if this guy was looking for a loophole. I don't know. He didn't say it in English. I don't think he was sitting there like, how do I find a loophole in the system so I can get a CDL? I don't think he was thinking that. I think he was thinking, okay, if I'm going to be here in America and I'm going to live, I probably need to make some money. So at least playing advocate here for Satan, at least he was trying to get a job. At least he was trying to go find some honest work. At least he was actually doing his job. Now, he did something stupid in the process of doing his job. But for the last 4 years, he was working. I'm assuming he was getting paid and everything was fine until this. At least the guy was trying to work. I mean, one thing we can say, even if you are a hardcore MAGA conservative, one thing we can say about this guy before last week, I'm not talking about now, but before last week, one thing we can say about this guy, at least he was trying to earn an honest day's pay. We got to give him credit for that. Can we give him credit for that? Those of you who are hardcore Trump MAGA conservatives, can we give him credit for at least trying to make a paycheck? Can we do that? I try to be as objective as possible here. Now, what he did just now is stupid, and he's going to face penalty for that. And again, I told you, he's never going to walk free in America ever again. And he's probably going to be in jail. He should be incarcerated in Florida because he did the crime in Florida. Right now, he's in Cali, but Ron DeSantis is trying to get him back. So we can at least give him credit for that. He tried. All right. And again, this is all legal. Nobody did anything illegal here except him with this U-turn that he made that caused the accident. So compliance with procedures still failed the public when someone incapable of basic communication was legally certified to operate an 80,000-pound vehicle. That's the broken system. How is somebody driving an 80,000-pound vehicle and they don't even know what the signs on the road mean, and they can't communicate in English? So if you get pulled over by a cop and the cop asks him a question, he can't answer it. How does that happen? That's your government, ladies and gentlemen. That's your government. That's the government that you chose through your votes. Your representatives, your congresspeople, your lawmakers in the legislature, your presidents, your governors, your mayors, your city council people. I mean, it's not technically city council. This is the federal government came up with this stuff. They allowed this. This is not really on any state. It's on the federal government, because if they had checks and balances in place that didn't allow something like this to happen, then that guy couldn't have been that guy. He couldn't have did what he did because he wouldn't have been driving that truck. Now, someone may say, well, who hired this guy? Well, again, back to what I said about Tom Homan. If I'm running a company and I need warm bodies who can drive those trucks so I can keep the money coming into my business, keep the money flowing, and keep my profits going, and keep myself in business, there comes a point where I'm just going to hire anybody who's willing to take the job. This is how it goes. At some points, I may just hire anybody willing to take the job because nobody else is taking the job. I need a warm body in here. I remember after the virus, or during/after the virus, about 2020 into 2021, down here in Florida, where the rules were not nearly as stringent and they got lifted pretty quickly. I remember I went to a restaurant and there was a woman in there working, and I could see that they had a big like seating area where you can go in and sit down and eat. But I would always order my food for pickup. And I was talking to her one day and I was asking her, are they going to open the seating part again, the restaurant part? And she was like, we want to, but Dre, we don't have any workers. We don't have anybody who wants to actually work. So we don't have any servers. Therefore, we can't open that part because who's going to serve the customers if they go sit down? We don't have any servers. And they ended up closing their business. Maybe a year or two later, they closed down. And the thing is, if you're in that situation and you need to make a certain amount of money to keep your business afloat, and you need workers to work in the business, listen, you may get a point where you're just desperate, and you'll just take whatever you can get. And many people have been in this situation, not necessarily when it comes to business and hiring people, but people have been in this situation where, listen, this is the best I can get. Okay, I might as well take this. What else am I going to do? If I don't take this, then I'm going under and I have nothing. I might as well take something. All right. Men who are listening to this, all right, 2 a.m. at the bar, you had a few beers. Okay. All right. That's the best I can get. Hey, might as well do it. Either that or go home by myself. All you understand what I'm saying, or maybe you don't. But in business, sometimes you just take the warm body because you can get it. All right. That's the warm body that you can get. You take the warm body. And this is the reason why he got hired. I don't think the people who hired him said, okay, this guy, can he speak English? They didn't ask, probably. And well, they couldn't have asked because he couldn't speak English. If he couldn't speak English, doesn't matter. Can you follow directions? Can you put something into Google Maps and drive the truck? All right, clearly he can. I don't know how many trips he took. We'll find more information about this guy as time goes on. But proponents argue that licensing asylum seekers promotes safer roads by ensuring that they are trained and insured rather than driving unlicensed and underground. So this is what some people are saying. This is nonsense, but let me say it again. So some people say that asylum seekers who are allowed to get these CDLs, they're allowed to get these licenses. This promotes safer roads because it ensures that these people are trained and insured rather than driving unlicensed and underground. I say, what difference does it make now? And also, we can't say this promotes safer roads when he just crashed and 3 people died. Can't say that. It's something you could say out of this context, I guess, because it says that they're trained. Was this guy trained on driving that car? Probably. I would say probably. So I'm getting another text from the dealership. They say, want to confirm that your roadside event has been completed. And I don't know. They didn't say they got the car yet. So your provider has secured your roadside benefits. We'll remember our team to reach out shortly. So they might be about to call me again. So if they do, I'll take the call. Y'all can listen to it if they call again. So in practice, Mr. Singh's incompetence behind the wheel shows that simply issuing licenses without enforcing proficiency standards only creates new dangers. That's correct. The problem with ensuring proficiency standard, enforcing, proficiency standards. You know what that requires? People. If you have standards and you're going to enforce those standards, you need people to enforce the standard. Problem is, these companies may not have the people to enforce the standard. So how are we going to enforce the standard? We don't have any people to enforce it. All they can do is hire more people, send them out there to do the job. You can drive. Okay, you can follow instructions. You can read directions on Google Maps. Okay, drive the truck. We'll pay you this much money. They do it so they can get their checks. And anybody who knows anything about my phone's ringing again. So let me take this call. Oops, my phone stopped ringing. Where is it? Right here. Let me see. Hello. Yes. Speaking. Yes, I am. Only reason I said no is because I said no to the question because the tow truck driver took the vehicle, but I did not get confirmation that the vehicle arrived at the dealership yet. Has it arrived? Yes. Okay. So as soon as I get that, then we're fine. That's the reason I said no. But otherwise, we're good. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Thanks for calling. Bye. All right. So at least they're quick. Anyway, so this incompetence behind the wheel, they can't enforce their proficiency standards, even though there are standards. Nobody enforces them. So as I told you all, I just said this a few minutes ago, and I'll say it all the time, that if you have a standard or a rule and you don't enforce it, it is not a standard. It is not a rule. It is a suggestion. It is a preference. It is a wish. It is a desire. A standard must be enforced. A rule must be enforced. If you don't enforce it, it's not real. So there are standards because clearly I told you he got 2 out of 12 right when it came to English. And he got 1 out of 4 right when it came to reading signs on the road. Yet he still had a license. He was still allowed to get behind the wheel of an 80,000-pound truck. That's because the standards aren't being enforced. Therefore, they're not standards, which puts everybody's safety in danger, which is exactly what happened here. And that was true even if this had not happened, but people don't really respond to something or feel it until it's right in their face. Now everybody can viscerally understand this, especially those of you who actually are active in this. Those of you who drive on highways a lot. I saw Lee and Lisa, those of you who actually drive trucks. All right, y'all understand this very well because you're in the game. People like me who don't drive trucks, but I do drive on a highway. I see the trucks. This gets everybody's attention because now it's visceral because 3 people lost their lives who had nothing to do with this. Now everybody's going to be talking about it. So Mr. Singh was arrested. He was charged with homicide. He was flagged for deportation. And it proves that enforcement mechanisms do activate after the violation. Here's the issue. And this is the crux of the conflict between Trump/MAGA and all of his detractors in these last 3 elections, especially 2016 and 2024 specifically, was that Trump's frame is we've had enough bad people come here and do wrong things who didn't have proper documentation that what we're going to do is we're going to put a blanket over everyone who comes here without proper documentation, and we're not letting anybody in. And if we find you in, we're kicking you out, even if you didn't do anything wrong. Why? Because the thing you did wrong, coming here without proper documentation, is enough. It's enough wrong that we're going to get rid of you just on that general principle alone. That was Trump's frame. If you're here without proper documentation, even if you did everything else, quote unquote, right, you got to go because you don't have proper documentation. And I'll tell you where I stand on this in a moment. Trump's opponents, his detractors, are saying, well, we're a country of immigrants. We're a country of people who came here with nothing, and they paper over the fact that someone may have came here without proper documentation. And then they go on to, without mentioning that, This person pays taxes. This person has a job. This person has kids. This person has a career. This person has a business. They're doing good things. They never did anything wrong since they've been here. Why would you want to kick this person out? This is the frame that the Trump detractors, let's just call them the political left, that's the frame that they like to use. Personally, I'm an absolutist when it comes to standards. And standards, by definition, are absolute. What does that mean? That means that if we have a law that says if you don't have proper documentation, you can't be here, which means you can't come in. And if you happen to get in and we find you and you don't have proper documentation, you must leave immediately. That's the standard, period. There is no discussion. There is no if, and, or but to it. There is no exception to a rule. Rules don't have exceptions. If you have an exception to a rule, actually they do have exceptions. Let me back up. If you see an exception to a rule, that is the exception, and it further proves the rule. It does not disprove the rule. It doesn't mean we should get rid of the rule because you can point out a few exceptions. Donald Trump's frame in 2016 and in 2024 was anybody without proper documentation has to leave. You don't have to have done anything, quote unquote, wrong since you got here. The fact that you came here without proper documentation is enough wrong that you got to go. Period. I agree with that. Not because I am a MAGA, not because I'm conservative, not because I'm a Trump supporter. I'm not any of those things. I have no political affiliation. I agree with it because the rule is the rule. And if I just explained to you all 3 times, if you have a rule that you don't enforce, it's not a rule. We have laws on the books that says how you can come and how you cannot come. Pause. And if you come in here without proper documentation, you got to go. Period. That's the only thing you have to have done. You could be here 20 years without proper documentation. You didn't do anything wrong, but we find out you came without proper documentation. Tom Homan is coming and you got to go. The guys with the mask on their face are coming and you got to go. Why? Because that's the law. That's a good enough reason. You go to another country in the world without proper documentation, they find out. What do? You got to go. That's it. There's no if. There's nothing else to say. There's nothing else to it. Period. You got to leave. Why? Because that's the rule. And if we're not enforcing our rules, we don't have any rules. And when you remove rules and you remove standards and you relax parameters, you only get one thing. You get chaos and disorder, which are 2 sides of the same coin. That is a scientific law known as entropy. Scientific law of entropy says that everything is always moving to a higher status of chaos and disorder. It happens naturally. Only way you stave off chaos and disorder is by having rules, parameters, and standards that block the chaos from happening. And if you don't enforce your rules, standards, and parameters, the chaos happens on its own. You don't have to try to make chaos. Chaos, you don't have to be intentional to get chaos. For those of you who don't understand something. You don't have to try to be in bad physical health and to slowly deteriorate and to be in and not be able to take care of yourself physically and die. You don't have to try. It happens by itself. The only way you get in great shape and in great health and your body works great and it feels great and you live longer is because you must do things intentionally to make your life physically better, health-wise. Meaning, watch what you eat, watch what you drink, take care of your body. My phone's ringing again. Let me take this call. Hello. Morning. This is with from where? Oh, yeah. So we reached out to the Mercedes because it might be under warranty. So right now we're waiting to see if they can fix it. Yes. All right. So once I hear back from them, if numbers don't sound right, then I'll get back to you. Thank you. All right, so that was the guy I was about to pay $140. He just told me he'd give me a good price if the car dealership tries to overcharge me. So now I got options. All right, so thank you, ChatGPT halfway for where we ended up this morning. Y'all didn't see that story. Watch the replay of this and watch from the beginning when I told the story. So back to where I was. If you want to be in good health, that means you got to exercise, watch what you eat, watch what you drink, watch what you're putting in your body. Make sure you get good rest. All of you understand these things on a logical level. You may not be doing them, but you understand them. But you have to do them. You have to do them. They don't just happen by themselves. You don't get good health without doing anything. You have to do something. If you do nothing, you get chaos. You do something to keep the chaos from happening. This applies in all of life. Any of you have a yard in front of your house. How do you keep the yard from looking crazy? You got to do something. You got to cut the grass. You have to trim the hedges. You have to pull the weeds. You got to make sure people don't let their dogs poop on your grass. You got to call the landscaper to do. You got to do something that keeps the chaos from happening. If you do absolutely nothing and just leave it there, what happens to your yard? Everybody knows what happens. Walk past an abandoned house, you see what happens when you do nothing. This applies across the board in all of life because it's a scientific law. So here's Dr. Fauci. Follow the science. Okay, the science says entropy means chaos and disorder happen on their own. So in the United States, when Donald Trump says we're going to enforce the rules to keep the entropy from happening, he is 100% correct. He is scientifically backed. So there's Donald Trump and some science. How many of you have heard that? Donald Trump and science. I just combined Donald Trump with science. All right, give me credit for that. Let me give myself a round of applause. Let me see if one of my soundboard apps can do this. Let's see. All right, so I'm adding that one to my favorites. All right, so I just gave myself a round of applause for what I just did. Now, other thing about this app is that this app's kind of funny. These soundboard apps are actually kind of cheap. They do what they need to do, but at the same time, is all right. So I just gave myself a round of applause for combining Donald Trump with science. Is that he said we got to keep these people out. In 2024, he said the same thing. We got to keep these people out. The political left said, why do we got to kick them out? He's xenophobic. See, that right there is what they're doing is trying to poison the well. They call that the appeal to emotion. So Donald Trump is hateful of people who come from other backgrounds because he's saying we're going to enforce the rules and the laws and not let people from other countries come into our country without proper documentation. That's not xenophobia. That's enforcing rules. That's upholding standards. Now, why would you as an American have a problem with that? I don't think a lot of people who went against Trump had a problem with that. What they had a problem with was Trump himself. So anything he said, they just found a way to go against it and then tether it to emotion so that people would get mad about it and be mad at Donald Trump. And clearly, we can see over the last 10 years that worked. But he wasn't wrong about this. He was 100% correct. So this whole concept of we have to let people in and, oh yeah, another thing. We are a country of immigrants. That is not true. The United States is not a country of immigrants. The United States is a country of citizens, not immigrants, citizens. When an immigrant comes to the United States of America, the most important thing they want to do is become a citizen. They don't want to remain an immigrant. They want to become a citizen. So we're not a country of immigrants. Next time you hear somebody say that, you correct them and tell them, no, we're not. We're a country of citizens. Everybody who comes here as an immigrant is trying to become a citizen. And they'll go through years of red tape, bureaucracy, and paperwork just to get that citizenship. Why? Because when you have citizenship, you can stay here and you belong to this country. You're not a visitor. Immigrants are visitors. Citizens are residents. And there's a big difference between the two. And Donald Trump didn't say this in so many words, but this is the idea that he was putting across. And his opponents went against him just because it was him. And they were just trying to find a way to oppose him no matter what he did, which is a bad strategy, which is why the Democratic Party has a problem right now. We've been talking about that. We're not going to dive into it today. But waiting until after 3 people have passed away to cast this breakdown exposes how reactive rather than preventative the current system is. And this is the point. And this is the catch-22 of the whole thing, is that now everybody's going to want to do something about this. Not everybody. Let me be clear. Not everybody is going to want to do something about this because there's this tragedy and 3 people lost their lives and it's in front of everybody and it's very visceral. But 2 weeks ago, when this hadn't happened yet, or 8 months ago when Tom Homan and his crew got busy with ICE and just raiding places and pulling people out, and people in California are, they're protesting this. They're protesting pulling people who are here illegally out of the country. What are you protesting? What are you pushing back against? There are people here without proper documentation and you're protesting that they shouldn't leave. Where in the world does that happen? I've never heard of that. And I'm not talking about one person. We're talking about masses of people. How are people protesting this? Now, people are coming out talking about we're going to chase ICE out of our neighborhoods and we don't want ICE in our neighborhoods and they need to show their faces, et cetera, et cetera. Why? All they're doing is enforcing the laws that we voted for. These are laws that we voted for. We have a legislature, House of Representatives and the Senate, which is also known as Congress. They are the ones who make these laws. The president signs them they make the bills. The president signs them into laws. And these are the laws that we live by. How are you now out in the streets protesting a law that you directly or indirectly voted for by choosing the lawmakers and choosing the president? Now you're going against the very thing that you chose. Explain to me how that makes any sense. Logically, that makes no sense whatsoever. But as I've already explained to you all, and most of you understand this, Most human beings are not logical. They're emotional. That doesn't make any logical sense. We chose everybody in Congress. They got voted for. We chose the president. They get voted for. They make the laws. The law says you don't have proper documentation, you got to leave. So now we start enforcing the law and people come out of their house to protest. What the hell are you protesting? I don't understand this. How are you protesting? This is on a logical level. How are you protesting this? So anyway, California officials stress. Actually, I said this was a catch-22. So the other side of this is if Donald Trump comes out and says, and Donald Trump or anybody else, we got to keep these people out who don't have proper documentation, even if they didn't viscerally do anything bad, they still have to go. And people use the appeal to emotion and say, well, that's not right. They haven't done anything wrong. This is a Maryland man. Remember that guy in Maryland, the Maryland man, where they were trying to kick out to, what country they were trying to send him to? I forget the country. That whole Maryland man situation from back in maybe February or March this year, Abrego Garcia, that was his name, Abrego Garcia. And they say he hadn't done anything wrong. Technically, they dug up on him. He had done some stuff, some bad, like criminal level stuff in America. But even if he hadn't, the whole point is you don't have documentation, you must leave. Was it Salvador? Yeah, El Salvador. So California officials stress that the driver met every legal step at the time. They blame federal policy inconsistencies for the outcome. They're right. Even though Ron DeSantis is going to try to pin this on California, and he should, because optically it'll work, it's not really on California. On a logical level, it ain't really on California. It's on the White House. It's on the government. They're the ones who allowed this. So Florida leaders say that sanctuary state policies make it too easy for unqualified people to, let's say, get a CDL, slip through the cracks. They want federal overrides to stop this from happening again. Now, this is an interesting point. So every state has different rules, different laws on this type of stuff. So again, I'm assuming based on the way Ron DeSantis was speaking, that in the state of Florida, this same guy, Mr. Singh, he could not have gotten the CDL. I'm assuming that's the case. Otherwise, he shouldn't be saying it because then he looks dumb. So let's just assume Ron DeSantis is smart and he knew what he was doing. In other states, though, you can get a CDL even with you have a certain level of clearance, let's say, from the government. So this is one of the benefits of the United States is that you have 50 different choices of what lifestyle you want to live on things that are state level decided, such as CDL rules. So in one state, you can't get it, but in another state, you can get it. In one state, the schools are terrible, but in this state, you like the way the schools are. One state, you got a Republican, another state, you got a Democrat. So you can pick and choose. You got 50 choices as an American citizen. What Florida is saying, allegedly, is that they want federal overrides to stop it from being possible for anyone to get certain things, certain licenses, certain clearances, regardless of what state they go to. So Florida is basically saying this should be federally regulated. Here's the issue. Donald Trump's whole thing, since he's come into office, has been, we want to put things back on the state. We want less federal oversight of everything, less governmental oversight of everything. Generally, I agree with that stance. I'd rather things be state level than federal level. However, at the same time, I understand there are certain things that people do want to be federal level, and that way things like this can't happen. The issue is when something like this is very visceral and it does happen, people are willing to say, let's federalize that, federalize it, federalize it. The issue with that, the flip side of that is then people are going to want to federalize something else that other people say may be state level. So it's like this. On one hand, we want this federalized. On that hand, we don't want that federalized. And this is like this back and forth arguing between every single point that comes up. For example, the Dobbs decision that happened that basically defederalized abortion. Now it's a state level thing. Some people say that should be federal and everybody should do it. They should, quote unquote, codify it. And it should be federal and it should just be a law and it's allowed everywhere. And other people are saying, no, it should be state level. So this situation with the CDLs, it is state level, but Florida, which is a state that's generally pushed for state level decisions, are now saying that certain things should be federal. And it muddies up the entire conversation about what should be federal, what should not. Generally, I'm a fan of less federalization of everything. Why? Because I don't want the federal government in charge of anything. Anything the federal government is in charge of, it tends to fumble the ball. And you can name anything the federal government does efficiently and effectively other than defense spending. I can't name anything. Other than defense spending, things that we spend money on when it comes to hot conflict, whether it's ours or somebody else's, there's nothing else the federal government does effectively and efficiently. They don't do money effectively and efficiently. They don't do taxes effectively and efficiently. They don't enforce the borders effectively and efficiently? Well, they are right now, but as a whole, as an entity, no, it doesn't. They don't do education effectively and efficiently. They don't do food and health effectively and efficiently. Maybe the pharmaceutical industry, I guess we can give them that. Pharmaceutical industry and defense spending, they do a great job of both of those. But everything else, no. So the concept of federalizing things, I still am against it, even though I understand the point that Florida might be making right now because of this situation, because the optics of the situation, I understand why they're making this point, but I still am against it. So a federal FMCSA probe has been launched into California and Washington CDL practices, showing the government recognizes systemic failure. The problem with this is they're only doing this because of the optics of it. They're not doing this because they're like, we need to fix this just because. They're doing it because of the optics, and everybody's looking bad right now. And the people in these organizations are looking really, really bad. So you need a headline to push this headline off the front of the newspaper. That's the game in politics, is that when there's a headline that makes you look bad, you got to go find another headline that makes you look good. So it looks like you're doing something about the situation that made you look bad yesterday. That's the whole thing in optics. And that's why this is all really just a game for them. Honestly, it's just a game for these folks. And I wonder if the families in Florida will be able to sue either the company that guy was working for, or they'll be able to sue the state of California. I'm guessing they're going to try. Actually, I'm not even guessing. I'm pretty sure that there are lawyers, wrongful death lawyers in the state of Florida and California, calling the families, the surviving members of the families of all three of these people who passed away, saying, you got a lawsuit on your hands. I guarantee that's happening today. Actually, that happened last week. This happened like 8 days ago. So that happened within 48 hours. There were lawyers on the phone saying that you got to wait. You can make millions off this. I know it's not going to bring back your loved one, but there's a lot of money to be gotten off this. And the state of California and or that company that hired this guy, they're going to settle out of court, and those families are going to get a lot of money. I'm not saying that as if that erases the situation. All right, no amount of money can bring back a human life, but they got to pay. And I would sue all of them. You should sue the state of Florida. I mean, if not Florida, California. You sue the company that hired this guy, and they might be able to sue the federal government. Might be able to sue all three. They can triple dip on the payback for what happened here, and they should do it. So until there is a unified enforced national standard, including mandatory English testing and knowledge enforcement that requires you to get the CDL, these kind of things can happen over and over again. And the thing is, folks, these kind of things happen every day. This one just became national news. This kind of stuff happens all the time. This is just the one that we know about. And the ones that we don't know about is not that they didn't happen. It's not that a life didn't get lost. A life is a life. It doesn't matter if it's on the news or not. A dead body is a dead body. And some people are saying that they should federalize certain things. And in general, even though I'm not a fan of federalizing things, this is one that I completely understand the position of wanting to federalize it. If it's actually going to happen, it's possible simply because it's so visceral right now, and every politician understands that politics demand that when something like this happens, you as a politician can't ignore it, and you can't act like you don't see it, and you have to sound like you're doing something to solve the issue. You have to do that. If you don't do that, then you look bad, and that might hurt you in your next election cycle, your next campaign cycle. So this is the whole game here. Another reason why I don't want to be in politics, because you're being fake. Right? Being fake is just part of the deal. So I'm still getting text messages from. All right. Now let's get to the comments. All right. So y'all know the deal when it comes to my soundboard. So we got the clapping, we got the ad hominem, we got the appeal to ridicule, and we got the straw man. So don't make me use these. Hopefully I don't have to use them at all. Now, ideally, I don't use the sound effects. But if I need to use them, I will. Let's see what we got going on in the comments over on IG. B. Miller, good morning. Willa Vilas, you said you're going to come up with a rap? Okay. B. Miller said the governor of Illinois went to jail for selling licenses to illegal immigrants. Truck driver killed a family, was uncovered the scandal. The government is in on the scandal. Okay, fair enough. I think his name is George Ryan. How long ago did that happen? I didn't hear about that, but it's in Illinois, so I probably wouldn't know about it. We only know about these things when they go national. So this happened in Florida where I live, but it went national. Mara said, drive outside of the U.S., Okay. Traditional said Dre gives real insight. Well, thank you. All right, let's see. Carlos said, did you check his driver's license? Who? Whose driver's license? Talking about the truck driver guy. Well, he got sent here by the car dealership. So if my car ends up somewhere it ain't supposed to be, the car dealership got to buy me a new car. So he got sent by them. They called him. I didn't call this guy. They called him. He called me, and he said, "I'll be there to come pick up your car." So I'm going off the honor system that this guy actually knew that this was the right car. He knew what car it was. He was already waiting next to the car, and he came right here. How would he know how to come to all these places if he wasn't who they said he was? I would just think, just by deductive reasoning, there's no way he could fake that. But if they did, that's a hell of a scam they pulled on me, and somebody owes me a car. So we'll see. So we and Lisa said we've been advocates for trucking and have met FMCSA many times. Yeah, well, this is a good time to call them today, me and Lisa, because now they got a crisis on their hands. And you know anything about bureaucracies is that they will drag their feet on things that are important, but they'll drag their feet until there's a crisis about that same thing. Then they got to act like they're doing something, and they're more willing to listen when there's a crisis. Because right now they look bad. That's the problem. Lacey, yes, he was driving a semi truck. He was driving an 18-wheeler truck, which you have to have a license to drive those kind of trucks because that's not like driving a BMW. 18-wheeler truck is a whole different kind of vehicle. The angles are all different. Everything's different. So he had a license. And he had a license since 2021. So let's assume he was driving the whole time. So he just did something stupid last week. He didn't do anything stupid before that, at least not we know about. So Mara said in Virginia, you got to get 100% on the road signs. Well, the thing is, the way this is worded, the notes that I have, is that you didn't have to take the road sign test until after you already had the license. So I don't know why that is or what that's about, but that's what it sounded like. Me and Lisa said, English been on the book since 1937. Trump reinstated it in April by executive order. Okay, so we and Lisa giving some context here. Tony Malfara said, early morning grift every day. Tony Malfara.
Strawberry cheesecake.
This is also.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
So that's the ad hominem and the straw man. So here's the thing with people using this term grift. People only use this word when they hear or see something that they don't like. So is a grift when you see someone doing something that you don't like, you call it a grift. This term has been overused and it doesn't mean anything anymore. It's like people saying racism doesn't mean anything. People saying mid. That doesn't mean anything anymore. Grift doesn't mean anything anymore. People throw these terms out usually just to voice displeasure or disagreement. But if you have an actual disagreement, just say what it is. IT Burnout said he's defending the truck driver. Am I? I don't think so. I'm defending logic and objectivity. Liz said he isn't saying. Oh, I think you're talking about me. You're talking about. I was asking about Gavin Newsom. That's what you're talking about. I remember that. Okay. Lee and Lisa said Florida should have never released him. Yeah, I don't know what the technicalities of that were. Jim said, how do you feel Donnie whitewashing savory? Do you mean slavery or savory? Jim, I need you to rephrase that question. Carl said, if Newsom was smart, he wouldn't be saying anything. Well, he is smart. He's not saying anything. Lacey said, I remember passing European driver's test, street signs, traffic circle, and hand signals. Yeah, so you probably had to get them all right. So Live Free says, same thing happened in Illinois under George Ryan. Family of 6 passed away. So it's the same thing B. Miller saying on Instagram. Live Free mentioned the same thing. So I didn't know about that. I never even heard of George Ryan. But apparently that happened. Annie Rome, thank you for the follow. Ryan Jackson said he bought it. Lacey said he knew someone. Well, maybe, according to what I've seen, this is normal, that you could just do it. So Lee said he first got a license in Washington State. Cali should have revoked that. Okay. Yeah, so, I mean, he got the license. It looked like he got the license properly. So he didn't have to do anything under the table to get the license, that they let him get it. Carl said, what company was he working for? Because they should be held accountable. Yeah, that's what I said at the end, is that the family should probably sue the company, the state, and the federal government. All three. IT said he got a CDL from Amazon. Yeah, he might have. Do you mean Amazon the company, or you mean Amazon like you're joking? Traditional says a lot of immigrants driving tractor trailers can't speak English. Yeah, so I guess that's okay. Again, I don't think he's the first person. He just happened to be in the news because of what he did. But is he the only one driving around with the same situation? Probably not. Actually, I would say definitely not. Lacey said he sure didn't get it in Oregon. Yeah, they said Washington and Cali. Lee said Singh was released by Trump Department of Homeland. Yes, because he claimed asylum. So that's what because he claimed asylum, he was in limbo. And because he's in limbo, he got to just move around. Sam said no driver's licenses to illegals. That's how it should be. So how he got this, I don't know if he has a regular driver's license, but he had a commercial driver's license. Those are two different licenses. So I don't know if they apply. I don't know if they all work the same way. Probably not. Probably not. Pimp 2020 said 9 out of 10 DMV workers speak Spanish, and we have tests written in Vietnamese, Chinese. Yes. Yeah, when you work at the DMV, you got to be able to speak a lot of languages because you got a big mix of different types of people. Carlos said, if I ask a question, will you ridicule me with the soundboard? It depends on the question. I don't ridicule every question. It just matters how the question is phrased. If you use a logical fallacy, then I'm going to call it out. But if you don't use a logical fallacy, I will not ridicule. And I won't ridicule you. I ridicule the question. There's a difference. I'm not going to ridicule a person. If I ridicule a person, then I'm guilty of a logical fallacy myself. That's known as the ad hominem. So I'm not going to attack the person, but I will attack the point. Dana said, love your lives. Thank you. Shina H, good morning. Good to see you. Greta, thank you for the follow. Courtney said, I can't wait for the comments. LOL. Well, we're here. We are here. Live Free said, I don't like any of those. Well, these are the best ones we got for now. For now, this is the best that we got. We got 85,000 likes, folks. Let's get to 100K, please. So this one said, remember in Florida, they were paying the DMV. Who are you talking about? Jew Goat. Thanks for the follow. Carlos said, asylum seekers have to seek asylum in the first country outside of their country. Government failed. Yes, that's usually what happens. When you ask for asylum, they can't send you back to where you came from. They send you somewhere else. And then people will say, well, if you send me there, I don't know anybody. I don't know what I'm going to do. So it's like this. It's red tape. It's governmental red tape is what it is. Yes, this guy was trying to make a U-turn driving an 18-rower truck, which is a bad idea in and of itself on a highway. Because the amount of time it would take the truck to turn around and get straightened up, of course, there are going to be cars coming. So why would you do that? So this was just a foolish decision by this gentleman who's now going to go to jail for it. Well, Heck said, what we did wrong was not keeping our borders secure. Yes, and when different regimes come in, they can enforce or not enforce the rules. That's the issue. William Lisa said, CDL tests are given in many languages. I believe that. The real Trey Harris said, he shouldn't have had a license, and CDL requires more knowledge of the road. I would hope it does, but he got the license. Robin said, maybe we should be supporting the immigrants we rely on so much rather than deporting them. And Robin, I disagree. And I don't know what you mean by rely on so much. And again, any immigrant who comes here with proper documentation, they're good. Let's be clear. There's different types of immigrants. There's basically two types. There's the type that comes with proper documentation. Those are cool. If you're an immigrant, you come here with proper documentation, you're good. No problem. And there's plenty of them in America. All those immigrants are probably trying to become citizens as quickly as possible. Now, if you come here without proper documentation, you're here illegally, you have to go because that's the law. Not because I think you should go. Not because I have a problem with your country or who you are or your skin color. It's because the rule says without proper documentation, you have to go. I'm an absolutist when it comes to enforcing rules and standards. There is no gray area. This is the rule. Are you on this side of the rule or that side of the rule? If you're on the wrong side of the rule, you got to go. Period. So Carlos said the sanctuary city-state mess needs to be decided by SCOTUS. Yes, if it gets that far. Shaniqua Collins, thank you for the share. Liam Lisa said, the companies that hire foreigners know and exploit the loopholes. Yes, exactly, which is what I was alluding to earlier. Companies hire these people because they tend to be cheaper. There's less red tape. Often you can pay them under the table, which means you don't have to pay employment taxes on them because they're not documented. So it helps the company. The thing is, now if ICE and Tom Homan come along and start taking your workers away, now you have no more workers. And they might come after you for hiring these people. But what I've heard a lot of people saying is that why is ICE going and taking the workers from these jobs where they're working under the table without proper documentation, but they're not going after the people who hired them, which technically could somehow, depend on looking at the law books, they might be violating too. But they're not going after those people. They're only going after the workers, but not the companies that hired the workers, knowing that these people are not illegal. So that's another legal loophole. The overall issue here, folks, is that the government doesn't have the resources to enforce all the laws that we have. People break the law and break rules all the time, don't get caught. How many of you ran through a red light or didn't stop at a stop sign? Did you get pulled over immediately? Probably not most of the time that you've done it, simply because there's not enough cops to catch everything. So even though we have a bunch of laws and rules, they don't always all get enforced. Chris, good morning. Great Rising 1958. Thank you for sharing a live with more than 5 friends. I appreciate you. Lily Chan said, if the crime was in Florida, can he be charged in another state? Wouldn't he need to be extradited? I don't know exactly what the law is and why they're doing it. Maybe because he was doing interstate travel. Maybe that's why. I don't know, but we'll find out if we hear more about the story. You just said you blame the employer who hired him. Other people had to show qualifications and testing. Yes, that's why I said they should get sued. 3 lawsuits. The company, the state, and the federal government. Michael said California would set the guy free. Watch. Now, not in this case. I don't think so, Michael. Simply because it's too much attention on it. So they can't do it quietly. If they set him free, it's going to be outburst or backlash is a better word. Finn said this is obviously political. If this happened in a red state, it would have been swept. I don't know about that one, Finn. It did happen in a red state. Florida is a red state. This guy's license is from California, which is a blue state, but it happened in Florida. Robin said fewer and fewer people want to drive trucks because it's an exploitative industry. I have read about the truck industry. There's a book called The Secret Life of Groceries. And a lot of that book was about the truck drivers that drive groceries around the country. And it sounds like a very dark job, especially for women, that women are constantly under the threat of assault from truck driving men, especially when they stop at truck stops. And a lot of times there was a woman they were profiling in the book, and she said she goes to a truck stop. She never walks in between 2 trucks. She always parks somewhere where the lighting is really good. And she will sleep in the cab of her truck with the doors locked because of the threat of truck driving men and what could happen. And they told a story of a woman who was a truck driver, and she got assaulted by other truck drivers at a truck stop. And this other woman drove like 4 hours off of her route to go be with her after she got assaulted. And then also the money when you're driving that truck, because of the licensing and the money you had to pay for having the truck and all these things that you basically can't, they get you caught up and you can't get out of it. You're in a web you can't get out of. So you're constantly driving to keep your head above water, but you can't make enough money to get out of the situation. So you're basically stuck driving trucks forever. So it painted a picture of the industry being very exploitative, but I haven't heard anyone argue on the other side of it. So that's what I saw from that side of the conversation. On top of the fact that Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and stuff are working on AI trucks, self-driving AI trucks that will eliminate the need for humans. So there's a lot to be said on the subject. I have only seen one side of many of that conversation. That's not the whole story, just for the record. Traditional says so many qualified men graduating from CDL schools. Yeah, but if they're with proper documentation, they might require more money than what this guy was accepting. Possibly. Carlos said restaurants should have to pay minimum wage instead of including tips as income. That's a big conversation. There's a lot of debate being had about that, Carla. Because I've worked at restaurants before when I was a teenager, and you were supposed to declare how much money you got as tips. The thing is, it's changed. It's changed in a couple of ways. One, and I'm gonna go overtime today, folks, because I started late and I took a break in the middle of this. So if y'all can't stay, it's all good. But I'm gonna go overtime. I usually stop no later than 10. Back in the day, if you served tables, you waited tables, you got tips in cash. Your tips were in cash. They weren't on a card. So if you collected $100 worth of tips during your shift, you were supposed to declare how much money you made in tips. Nobody declared the exact amount that they got. And they told you that. As soon as you get in, your other waiters and waitresses will tell you, don't declare the whole amount. You declare a percentage of what you got. So if you got $100 in tips, you would declare like $30. So you got taxed on that 30. And then the rest of it had to be made up by your paycheck because it's based on the amount of money that you made. So you only got taxed on the 30. So basically you made $70 tax free. That's when it was in cash because you had to self-report. What's changed these days now is almost all of tips are electronic and they're going into the system. So if I serve a bunch of tables and all my tables give me $100 in tips, I can't lie and say I only got 30 because the $100 in tips that I got, they had to be written on that receipt. and I can't get the money because somebody has to give me my $100. Now I can't. Now I got to get taxed on everything, and that becomes now I get taxed on more of my money. And if I'm paying 40% in taxes already, I'm taking home a lot less money. So I get what you're saying there, Carl. There's an argument for that. Pimp said Mexico allows hundreds of their drivers to access our roads through NAFTA. Okay, interesting. Well, heck said, why have a test with no consequences? He should have lost his license because they don't have enough people to enforce it. Well, heck, that's why. Not enough people. Liam Lisa says CDL school corruption is rampant in the industry. I believe you. Mara said Amazon, CVS, and other large companies fired their illegal workers and offered proof to ICE. Okay, I didn't hear about that, but okay. Liam Lisa said licenses can be bought with no training or testing. There you go. Mari said a raid will look bad. Mawa Mazuri said a raid will look bad from employees I know at these organizations. I'm sure. Carlos said being lenient on illegals on making citizens jump through hoops. Yes, that happens. Depending on the industry and depending on the red tape involved. Okay, you're talking about the processing centers, Mawa. I get what you're saying. Robin said federal agencies regulate trucking companies. Cutting regulation will ensure this will happen more. Okay. Man of Steel said, are the standards not being enforced only in certain states? I think, well, first of all, there's a federal thing. And then as far as that testing, that's all the context that I had. So there's probably more context that I don't have. I just gave you context I had. Traditional said, I hate driving next to tractor trailers. My grandpa got killed under one. Yes. Sorry to hear that. I never drive next to a truck. If I'm near a truck, I either slow down so it can get in front of me or usually speed up so I can get away from it. I don't want to be in the same lane next to a truck. I try to get as far away as possible, get in front of it, and get a couple lanes over if I can't get away. Liam Lisa said Obama's FMCSA put out a memo in 2016 to not enforce English. Drivers have been screaming about this on X. Okay, now see, that's some inside baseball that I wouldn't know. And this triggered the Trump EO this year. So why did it take Trump 9 years to do something about it? Strategic Brand said, Dre, great points on Trump detractors, illegals, and migrants. Well, thank you. Let's get the lights up, folks. We're at 95,000. Let's get to 100K. Vivian from Philly, good morning. But Heck said, all need to go to be fair. I'm a preschool teacher. Yeah, well, look, fair means fair is subjective. But if the rule says no documentation, you got to leave, then you got to leave. And that's it. Big Lou, New Jersey said, I don't understand. You have 20 years to get your stuff together. What do you mean, Big Lou? What are you referring to? Tired of it 12 said, I wish I were as articulate as you. Well, I can help you. I can teach you. Click the link in my profile. Chad Riddle, Chad R. Thank you for the follow. Man of Steel says, some of these countries will put you in prison for years before kicking you out. That is true. That's true. Traditional said, you should not have to pay for anything. Warranty. Are you talking about my vehicle? Yeah, well, every vehicle comes with different levels of warranty. Based on what was wrong with it, it's just this little valve where you put the air into the tire. That's not normal wear and tear, so there should be no reason that they would charge me for that. So my prediction is that they're not going to charge me. But the thing is, if you bring your car into a service shop and it's not scheduled service, even when it's scheduled, the shit takes forever. I got a tire fixed 2 months ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, and it was scheduled, but it was on a Saturday. So in defense of the service shop, it was a Saturday. So everybody comes on Saturday. We were in that dealership. We were in that service shop for like 3-4 hours and they fixed the tire, but it took 3 or 4 hours. That was scheduled, but it was on a Saturday. Today is Wednesday, is unscheduled. So I'm hoping it'll be quicker simply because it's Wednesday, but I might be wrong. So we shall see. But either way, I couldn't drive my car. So we got to get it fixed. And not paying for it in cash, but I'm paying for it in time. We're at 98,000, folks. Solid One said, this guy's an absolute legend. What are you referring to? Me and Lisa says, a totally preventable tragedy. Truck drivers know this. Well, I'm sure. Of course it was preventable. You're not supposed to make an illegal U-turn in any kind of car, let alone an 18-wheeler. George, thank you for the follow. Helena said, so this is how you make your money. Helena, I don't know what you're trying to say there. I would give you a straw man, but I'm not quite sure what you're saying there. I need more context. But if you want a straw man, give me more context so I can give it to you and you earned it. Dakota Restifo said, I didn't vote for Cheeto Man. Okay, well, everybody voted for him. I had to explain this every time I say this. Okay? The legislature that we have right now And the presidency that we have right now, everybody voted for him. Even if you did not vote, you voted for him. Even if you voted for the opponent, you voted for him. Why? Because we have a democratic voting process. In a democratic voting process, the winner is majority rules. The electoral college majority is the winner. As long as you have, 270 votes, you win. So even if you voted for Kamala and Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump is the president, you voted for him. Why? Because you're part of the democratic voting process. Even if you didn't vote at all, you're part of the process as a citizen. So we, all of us as a country, chose the current president, and we chose all the representatives, and we chose all the senators. Even if you don't like them, you chose them. And when I say you, I mean you personally as part of a collective group that does the voting. So it's not like you get the person you want and everybody else gets the person they want. No, we all get one person based on majority rules. So yes, you did vote for him. Even if you voted for Kamala, you voted for Trump. Why? Because voting for Kamala was not significant enough for her to win. So Trump won. So everybody voted for him. Left-handed plumber said it's inhumane what they're doing. Who's they? What are you referring to? Victor said driver couldn't read the signs posted on the highway. Yeah, which is crazy. Machiavelli said, when do we start deporting people to prisons in other countries with no due process? I don't think that happened. Machiavelli 2406.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Congratulations to you for the Straw Man of the Day award, because that's not happening. Deporting people to prison if they are supposed to be in prison in the country they got deported to. So that guy, the Maryland man, he got deported he was supposed to get deported to prison in his country, which I believe was Salvador, because he was a gang member, and the leader of that country had decided we're rounding up every known gang member of this particular gang and we're putting all of them in prison. That was happening in that country. That wasn't an American thing. We're going to deport you to prison. You can't do that. You can't deport somebody to Brazil and tell Brazil you got to put this person in prison. That's not the way it works. You can't tell another country what to do with their citizens. They were deporting the guy, period. And the people in Salvador said, this guy, he's a member of this gang. He's going straight to jail. So deport him to us. We will take him to jail. That's not America saying he got to go to jail. Because again, America can't tell another country to put somebody in jail. It's not the way it works. And he did get due process. The due process was he was actually processed multiple times through our court system. So Machiavelli 2406, congratulations.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Lee and Lisa said feds handle pilots' license, they should handle CDLs. Okay. Interesting. The thing about the CDLs, though, Lee and Lisa, is the reason why the feds don't always handle it is because not every CDL driver is driving intrastate. Some CDL drivers may only drive in a state. They may only drive in Florida. You could just drive around Florida or drive around Texas. They're not necessarily going federally. It could technically be the same thing with pilots, but I'm guessing, this is just my assumption, that the reason why the pilot's licenses are more ahead on by feds because you're more likely when you're flying to be able to travel in between states and across states as opposed to in a truck where it takes a lot more time and a lot more gas, literally and figuratively, to get from one state to another, depending on the size of the state. So that's that's my theory. I have no actual data on this. Maybe you do. That's my theory. So Man of Steel said, aren't CDLs overseen by the DOT like pilot's licenses by FAA? So Man of Steel and Lee and Lisa, you two need to talk to each other. So y'all both making the same point. Traditional says, should we sue both? You should sue three lawsuits. Company that hired the guy, the state where he got his license or licenses, and the federal government. All three. Lee said the company will not have any money. Yeah, you're right. What about insurance? Will they have insurance? Lee and Lisa said truck drivers are quitting because of the dangers. I get it. Angelica, good to see you. Truth Be Free said, how far is the company who pushed open didn't go to jail to pay a fine and knew that was going to happen? I don't understand your question. I need you to put that in proper English. I don't know what you're saying. Carlos said, the issue crosses state lines. The federal government has to set the standard. Right. The thing is, I don't know why the federal government doesn't do CDLs. I gave my theory, but I don't know what the real reason is. James Dalton said, trucking is the backbone of freight movement nationally. It should be regulated by the U.S. government. Okay, so many of you are saying a similar thing. I get it. So Simply Farm said, with the things that I see the 18 rows doing these Florida roads, I'm pretty sure he's not the only one. Oh, no, he's not the only one. He just happened to do something that cost people lives. And then people found out his background. Now it's a story. Lacey said, people can be bought cash under the table. This is true. Steph said, DMV workers are taking money under the table to obtain a license. Look what happened in Kentucky. I don't know what happened in Kentucky. Carla said, I want the sound. Okay, so Carla wants the sound, so I'm going to give Carla the sound, even though she didn't actually use a straw man, but I'll just play it one more time.
Strawberry cheesecake.
All right, Roseanne Phelan said, when I worked in Europe, I had to pass their written test in their language as well as all the signs. Yes. Classy E said, I love the soundboard. It's going to make the comment section even better. Yes, it will. Now, see, today's topic is a little bit more benign. Wait till I start talking about Trump again. I'll be using this sound a lot. So today I'm not using it that much as I don't need to. But if I do a topic that's just about Trump, don't worry. You will get your fill of that sound. Today is not. I'm not going to have to use it that much just because of the topic. I might talk about Joe Biden tomorrow. That'll bring the sound out more often. Stephen said, Doge type audits needed for all 50 DMVs. Yeah, and you saw what happened when Elon did Doge, his audits, right? The truth be free said, how about Ivanka Trump? What about her? What she had to do with anything we're talking about here today? Brandon said, that is not the law. What are you referring to? Classy said, I don't understand how this guy passed the test. My ex took the test and it was very detailed. Well, it depends on what state he took it in. Because every state has different tests. Right? For example, in Pennsylvania, where I'm from, to get a driver's license, you have to parallel park. That generally means you got to park the car backwards, like you do if you're parking in between two cars on the sidewalk. In the state of Florida, however, you don't have to parallel park to get a license, because in Florida, a lot of the parking spots are not parallel parking spots. You can just pull into a parking lot in Florida, a lot of places. So you notice a lot of drivers in Florida. Well, I notice a lot of drivers in Florida are not good at parallel parking because they don't have to demonstrate parallel parking in order to get a license. In Pennsylvania, you must demonstrate parallel parking because a lot of the parking in Pennsylvania is parallel. So every state has different rules when it comes to getting licenses. B. Miller on Instagram said, you can teach me to speak like you. Of course. Yes. Get into our programs. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. There's a link in my profile. Dawn said, don't forget to mention that we made $2.11 an hour. We made $2.11 an hour back in the day. Yes, that's kind of what your pay rate was if you were a waiter or waitress, because the assumption was you would make back the difference in tips. Lacey said $1.30 an hour for me. Now, mind you, these ladies throwing these numbers out. This is back when the minimum wage was like $7, $8. It was actually less than that. It was like $5 or $6. Nowadays, it would need to be more. And I don't know how they do the tips now. How do they do the tips now when it's all electronic? Do you get your actual amount? Let me get to the bottom of my comments. I want to ask that question to people who might know. Well, heck said, I need to start giving servers cash tips. They appreciate it. They appreciate cash. For example, I don't ask them when I go to places. These days, they pretty much have all assumed that they're going to get it on the card. So they're stuck with it. But when I have movers, like I move a lot. I moved a lot. Like I move like every year or two. I just like living in different places, but pretty much the same area, but different places. The moving guys, when I want to tip them, they prefer cash. The guy, when I call them and book the service, the person, the admin at the company says, hey, if you want to tip the guys, they don't say I have to tip, of course. They say if you want to tip the guys, they prefer cash. So it's not on the card, because if the tip is on the card, now they got to go back to processing, and the admin has to go through all the paperwork, and then they get their money. That might take days or hours to get their money. But if I tip you $50 in cash, now you just put that in your pocket. And it's not documented. It's not on paper, so nobody has any trace of that money. It's just money I handed to you. Which is another issue when it comes to money these days, is the reason why some people still prefer to operate in cash, because it's not traceable. You do anything on a credit card or a bank account, every single thing you do, there's a paper trail. It's another reason why people like crypto and Bitcoin, because it's traceable, but not in the same way. It's not traceable in such a way that, depending on how you do it, you can make Bitcoin transactions that do not trace back to you personally. They can trace to your account or your wallet, but nobody can tell that is you. Whereas if you do something with your bank or credit card, everybody knows that you did it because there's a paper trail. So paper cash, physical cash, is less traceable. I'm running out of battery here on some of my devices, so we ain't gonna go that long over time, folks. Maybe 15 more minutes or so, something like that. Sherry said, that's what I do. Cars Tire will say, will Trump ever be held accountable in court for being an Epsteiner? Well, Epsteiner in what way? I need more context before I give you a straw man for that. Vivian said, my husband was killed by someone driving an 18-year-old who cut us off. Okay, so this seems to happen. This happened before, which is crazy. Sorry to hear that. Vivian said, what about the other guy in the truck? Anything on him? Legal CDL license? Well, they said that he was also here without proper documentation. So he'll probably get deported just because he was with the guy. But he wasn't driving, so he probably should not go to jail. He should just get deported. He wasn't driving the truck. The guy who was driving has to go. Cynthia said, I never had to parallel park. I would have flunked for sure. Are you from Florida? I know they don't teach parallel parking in Florida because I see drivers trying to parallel park. And I'm like, clearly nobody ever taught this guy how to parallel park. This dude's like 50. He doesn't know how to park. Kathleen said, my first job I made $3.25 an hour. That sounds about right. Classy said, electronic tips you are taxed on. Yeah, of course, because they can track it. Electronic tips, you get tracked. Lacey said, 1974, it was $1.30 an hour. Wow. But that was around that time. That's pretty much what it was. You're right. Classy said, plus the bank gets a portion. That's correct. Good point. The bank gets a portion because you did it on the card. So they get a portion just because you did a card transaction. Jennifer Zaya Somloff, thank you for the follow. I don't know how you pronounce that last name, Jennifer. How many times do you have to explain that to people? User 7136 and Carolyn both said they always tip in cash. Carlos said, hopefully no tax on tips will reflect that. Hopefully. Lacey said, I like the idea of the cash tip so the server gets the tip. Yeah, so if y'all want to make sure your server gets all their tip money, bring cash. But a lot of people don't carry cash these days. I don't carry cash hardly at all. Sometimes I don't even bring when I go into businesses, I don't even bring my credit or debit cards with me. I just do everything through the Apple Pay. You know what I might start doing? Here's what y'all can start doing. Y'all want to help out the servers and you don't carry cash? Is that you pay the bill and then you say to the server, hey, I want to tip you in cash, but I don't carry cash. What's your Cash App or what's your PayPal or what's your Zelle? And then you just Cash App them the money. There, I just solved you all's problem. So if you are, now the thing is the server, they got to know their Cash App handle or they got to have their phone with them so that they can do it and say, hey, just tip me right here through this Cash App. That's what restaurants should start doing. They should have all the servers walk around with a barcode or something that has their Cash App barcode, like maybe on a business card or something like that. Or they can even print it on a receipt. Your server is Lacey. So if you want to tip Lacey, pay her in Cash App. Just scan this Cash App code and give her $10 through the Cash App instead of doing it on here so that Lacey can get all her money. So if I was a business owner, I ran a restaurant and I want my workers to get their money, I would say I will put that on each barcode and each person will have their own barcode on their receipts. So if Mike has a table, his barcode is on his receipts. And if Lisa has a table, her barcode is on her receipt. And then you can just Cash App them their money in cash. So there, I just solved the issue for the restaurant industry. Y'all can pay me later. Once y'all start collecting some money. So Classy E said, I always carry cash just for the purpose of tipping. Yeah, see, I never carry cash. Cynthia said, I took the driver's... No, where was I? I took the driver's ed in Mississippi. Okay. Cynthia said, I had to redo my license in Hawaii in 1979. I still didn't have to parallel. Yeah, it depends on where you live. If you take the license in, let's say, New York, you got to parallel. So in the Northeast, it tends to be more condensed. The living situations are more condensed. So you have to parallel park because often you're parking on the street. There's a car in front of you. There's a car behind you. And you got to fit your car into that spot. So if you can't do that, you can't drive. So Carla said, anything electronic or digital can be traced, so use cash. Okay, fair enough. Those don't get traced as much. It depends on how much money you transact. So, for example, I do a lot of my business is digital. A lot of my business is online. So if you use a company like PayPal or Stripe, they only send you tax documents if you transact a certain amount of money. I believe the amount is $20,000. I think it's $20,000. It might be $5,000. And it changes sometimes. But if, let's say you use PayPal, and you don't do more than $5,000 worth of transactions on PayPal all year, they don't file that with the federal government. Therefore, the government technically doesn't know that you made that money. Technically, they do because they can always look back at your stuff if they want to, but they're not coming after you over $3,000. Like that's nothing to them. But if you do 20,000 in transactions, PayPal sends you, I believe, it's a 1099 form or whatever form they send you. And now, because you have that form, now you're supposed to file that on your taxes. It's the same thing with Stripe or Square or any of these apps. So if you use Cash App and you don't take in more than, let's say, 20 grand all year, technically the government doesn't care. Now, this is not legal advice, by the way. Speak to a licensed legal professional or tax professional before making any financial decisions. But if they don't send you that tax document, you don't really have to declare it. Not unless you want to, which I don't know why you would. Again, this is not legal advice. Night Owl says some restaurants do tip sharing for dishwashers also. Yes, I've heard about that. Now, when I first got a job as a server, this is when I was a teenager, there was an older guy who was working there who was also a server. And he said, I tip out. So they call that tipping out. Tipping out is when the servers who actually work the tables, they collect all their money from tips. And what they do is they go to the cooks and the dishwashers and they give them some of their money that they made to them because the cooks and the dishwashers help the servers do their jobs. So it's basically done off a respect system. It's not like a certain amount you got to give to them. It's like, all right, I made $100 on tips tonight. Let me give 10 to the cooks. Let me give 10 to the dishwashers as a thank you for them doing their jobs. And that's the way it worked back in the day. Now, how they do it now, they probably just put all the money in a pot, I guess, maybe and split it up, or they have a percentage that you got to give. I personally don't like that. I like, if you want to make tips, then serve tables. Now, if you don't want to make tips, you don't want to talk to people, you want to wash dishes, okay, you get a cut that I decide to give you, not how much. You don't get a percentage of my money just because. You get a percentage that I decide to give you because you don't want to do the work of serving people. Serving people is more work than washing dishes in a different way. Let me not say it that way. Washing dishes can be a lot of work too. It can be very grunt work-ish because you're back there with there's all that steam and the dirty ass dishes and you're doing it over and over again. If you want to make tips, you got to talk to people. That's the way I see it. If you're not doing the actual service business, then you get the percentage that you're given, but you're not owed anything. That's my way of looking at it, unless somebody else sees it different. Carlos said, always carry cash in case of power outages. All right, good point. Jackie said, Barbara Cruz for help information. What is that? Who's Barbara Cruz? Vivian said, my son was a server in LA, and that's how they tipped out. They just took some of their money and gave it to people, like the amount that they chose, right? That's what I was told when I first got in the game serving tables. This is the 90s. And the guy was like, we just tip out. So give a couple dollars to the cook, give a couple dollars to the dishwasher, maybe even a couple dollars to the host or the hostess if there is one. And that's it. User said they tipped us as doormen. Yes, doormen get tipped. Yes. We got tipped back in the day. Smart now. Yes, good to share. Yes, doormen get tipped. Yes. What I would do, I've lived in a lot of condos. So when I live in condominiums and the front desk person, they're not actually doing anything. They're not opening the door for me. They're sitting behind the desk. But if they're nice and they're friendly and I have a good relationship with them and I can call them and say, hey, somebody's coming, can you send them up? Or they'll do something for me or they'll put a package aside for me and stuff like that. What I'll do is at Christmas time is I'll give them a gift card. I'll give them an Amazon gift card for $150 or something like that. And I'll give that to all the front desk people who I like at the end of the year. So I've done that at a lot of places that I live. I'll just give them a gift. Anybody who's providing the service consistently, but it's not like a tipping type of service, I'll just give them a nice gift because they do a good job. And they always appreciate it. So Carolyn said, several restaurants have a standard tip out for bartender, hostess, runners, cooks hourly. Okay. Makes sense. I figured that's what they would do now because now they can count everybody's money. Because now they know exactly how much you made because they see the receipts. But back in the days when it was all cash, nobody knows exactly how much you got. So you could give whatever amount you wanted at your discretion. So it was a different type of game. I liked it back then that way. I personally liked that way when it was your discretion rather than I'm just giving a percentage. Because what if the cooks ain't even that good? What if the dishwashers are lazy? What if the hostess is rude? I still got to give them a percentage of my money just because? I don't like that. I don't like these rules on how much of my money I got to give to somebody else. All right. Speaking of taxes. It's cool that they share now. There's nothing wrong with sharing the money. You should do that anyway. I just don't like it being, I don't like there being a rule like I got to give a certain amount just because. Pimp said all interstate trucks have tracking systems. I bet the dispatcher told him to turn around. Okay, fair enough. Okay, that's a good point. Pimp 202220 made. Classy said, I run a cleaning company. My employees get tipped big during the holidays. Yes, they should. I will tip a cleaner if they do a good job, if they're exceptional. I'm the type of person, I don't give somebody a tip just because. You actually have to do a good job. You don't do a good job, I'm not tipping you. If you do a shitty job, I'm not tipping you. Now, I'll tip a restaurant. At a restaurant, I will expect a tip. I'll tip. If somebody's whack, I'll give them 18%. If they're good, I'll give them 20%. And if they're exceptional, I'll give them 25%. But I'm trying to think of type of businesses that people expect tips. If you're not doing a good job, I'm not tipping you. You just get whatever I paid. And I damn sure don't tip when I pick up food. If I go and pick up food, I ordered it and I show up there and I pick it up and you hand me the food, I ain't tipping you shit. What'd you do? You ain't doing anything. I paid for it. I'm the one who came to get it. Why am I tipping you? I'm not tipping you a damn thing. And I don't order food for delivery because it takes too long and the food is not fresh by the time it gets to you. And nowadays, the drivers are entitled. They get mad at you. I ordered this wasn't the regular kind of food. I ordered some snacks for delivery. This is like a year ago. I was using this app called GoPuff where you can order snacks like candy and potato chips, shit like that. So I ordered some candy. I don't eat candy like this. The way I was then, I don't eat candy like that anymore. But I ordered some candy for delivery. The delivery driver calls me. The delivery driver that works for GoPuff calls me and says, hey, when you order stuff like this, you need to tip more than $1 because we work very hard to bring you your stuff. Then she hung up on me. And I ordered like $18 worth of stuff. So I gave her it's basically like a 10% tip or something close. All she was doing was dropping off the candy. She didn't do anything. All she did was drive around and drop it off. She was like a DoorDash driver, but DoorDash they work in conjunction with GoPuff. And she was mad because I only gave her a $1 tip. I'm like, bitch, are you crazy? And anyway, I called GoPuff and I complained and they gave me like a discount and they gave me some money off and stuff like that. But people who work in service-based businesses getting entitled about tips is out of bounds. If you want to get a great tip, give amazing service. The tips will come. But if you're walking around entitled, like, oh, you didn't give me enough, I'm like, fuck you. I don't owe you any money. You want more money, get a better job. I'm not responsible for your tips. That's my principle when it comes to that. Lacey said, I worked at a bar years ago. We split tips. End of the night was $400, $500 each, jamming bar. Well, at a good bar, that's great. That's a good job. Take chances, say you tip out or take care of the ones that take care of you. Exactly. So if I work at a restaurant and the hostess, I like the hostess who's really good because they put good people in my section. So I get good quality customers in my section. I'm going to tip that hostess more than the hostess is giving me some shit people and give me bad customers. Same thing with the cooks. Same thing with the dishwasher. And what does the dishwasher do? The dishwasher is rude to me and he's not nice. I'm not tipping him a lot. If the dishwasher is nice to me and friendly and we have a good rapport, then I'm going to tip him more money. This is just human nature, folks. As the saying goes, you catch more flies with honey than you do with salt. So just being nice and being, friendly with people gets you better results than being a jerk. And this applies whether you're driving Uber Eats, whether you're serving tables, you're a bartender, all of this stuff matters. User said, do you tip McDonald's drive-thru? Well, first of all, user, I don't eat McDonald's, so no. And if I did do McDonald's drive-thru, what am I tipping for? What'd you do? I'm driving the car. It's my gas. It's my car. I got to pay the insurance. What are you doing? You just stand there at the window handing me a bag. What are you getting tipped for? All right, eat off your damn salary. All right, you want money, ask for a raise. Annie said, I feel that way at buffets, no tips. Now, here's the thing, Annie. At buffets, I will leave a couple dollars at the table for the people who clean up the tables because they walk around cleaning up those tables all day. If I have cash, I will do that. I will leave some money at the table for the person who cleans up the table at the buffet. Same thing at a hotel. I'll only do it at a hotel if the room is trash. I don't trash hotel rooms. But if you go to hotels and you trash the room, you should leave some money on a counter for the people who got to clean up that room because they got to do extra work to clean up behind you. I'm pretty neat in a hotel, so I don't tip. But if I was messy, I would leave a tip. R. Philly said, tip the tow truck driver. No, I'm not tipping the tow truck driver. No, they can live off their salary. Animal said, I think they shop your order as well. Oh yeah, they do. The delivery drivers, they look at all the orders they got. I've read about delivery drivers doing this. If they got 5 orders, they deliver the one that gave the biggest tip first, and the one that gave the worst tip, they deliver that one last. That's like their passive aggressive way of getting their point across. K. Kruma said, thank you. You're welcome. Trev Tom, good morning. OG McCoy said, not me. I tip pretty well all the time. So you tip for everything? I don't tip for everything. I tip for things where you got to actually do something. I'm not a fan of the concept of people being entitled to a tip. You're not entitled to a tip. A tip is also known as a gratuity. Gratuity by definition means extra. So if you did not go above and beyond, you don't deserve extra. You get paid your salary. All right, this is a job, right? You work here. Okay, they pay you. Okay, that's the money that you get paid for doing your job. If you want extra money, you got to do something extra. You don't get extra just because you showed up. That's the principle that I operate by, folks. If you want extra, you got to do extra. You don't get extra just because. Damn your living expenses. Your living wage is not my problem. I'm not your boss. And even if I was your boss, it's still not my problem, because if you want more money, you got to provide more value. I'm not giving you a raise just because, because you need it, because your kids need to go to school, because you need diapers, because your rent went up. How the hell is that my problem? That ain't my problem. That's your problem. If you want to solve your problem, you got to do something to solve your problem. What, you think just because you exist, I'm supposed to solve your problems? What I look like? Wizard of Oz? That ain't my job. So, user said, I agree, paid for a service. Yeah. Carla said, to ensure prompt service tips. Yes, if you're into ordering like Uber Eats. See, I don't order that shit. If I order food, I go get it. I will order the food for pickup, and then I will go and get it myself. Because I know if I go get it, it'll be more fresh than if I wait for a delivery driver. Lacey said, I tip for excellent customer service. Me too. Trev Tom said, great service, hard work, etc. are my criteria for tipping. Okay. I don't know about the hard work part. They're supposed to work hard because they're at a job. When you're at a job, you're supposed to be working. But I give better tips for going above and beyond. The only place where I will tip, even if the service is average, is at a restaurant. I'll give you 15 to 18%. Even if you're trash, I'll give you something. Because I know it's the general accepted way of doing things at a restaurant. But anywhere outside of a restaurant, you have to actually do something. For the most part, I'm trying to think what places I go where I would tip somebody. I don't go to barbershops. I'm trying to think any type of service-based business. If I went and got a massage, for example, I would tip on a massage. If I was a female going to a hairdresser, I would tip the hairdresser. If I was a female going to an esthetician, get my nails done, I would tip that. I don't go to these places. So I'm just trying to think where I would tip. There ain't really no place that I would need to tip. Service-based places. My car's at the dealership right now. I'm damn sure not tipping them. They taking forever. They haven't called me. I noticed they haven't called me. My car should be there by now. So who knows how long they're going to have my damn car. They ain't getting tipped shit. They getting paid whatever they charge me. It was already going to be too much. And that's it. Trev said, I meant this similar to the hotel example. If I left you extra hard work, I tip. Okay, fair enough, Trev. I get what you're saying. Now, if I make you work hard because I'm asking for more than normal, then yes, I will tip for that. I'm trying to even think of situations where I do that. See, I don't really do these things. But generally the point is I like giving extra to people who will appreciate the extra, and they understand that what I'm giving you is indeed extra. Like this, I don't owe you money. I don't owe you a tip. A tip is earned, is not owed. I've been standing on this one for years. And a lot of people don't like this concept. They're all like, well, if you can't afford the tip, then you shouldn't order Uber Eats. Like, bitch, what? I order Uber Eats is already overpriced. Y'all know when y'all order Uber Eats, they charge you more than the actual cost. So speak of the devil. I told you they hadn't called me yet. They're calling me. So let's see what they said. Hello. Good morning. Hey, Stacy. I'm doing great. How about yourself? Yeah. Yeah, Stacy, I'll tell you what happened there. The valve, the little piece that takes in the air, that metal piece. Yes, the valve stem was broken. So it was already on like 21. What do they call it? The pressure. Yes, it was on 21. So I went to put air in the tire today, and as soon as I tried to put air in it, it wouldn't take air. But other tires do take air. So that valve stem was already loose and broken. So the stem is actually in the car in the middle console, and the cup holder is in that second cup holder that's closest to the back seat. It's in there, so you can see it for yourself. Okay, so excuse me, maybe like a mile, just as I had to get home because I was at the gas station. Yeah, it should still be good, and I'm assuming that that should be a warranty level thing because that's not normal wear and tear, correct? Okay, right. Hmm. Okay, you can call me Dre, Dre. Thank you, Stacy. Bye. All right, so there you have it. They haven't looked at the car yet, so they got it like 40 minutes ago. Now they're finally about to look at it. This is the kind of shit. This is anyway. Nothing you can do about it. So yes, the PSI. That was what I was explaining to her. So I was just making sure we're on the same page here. You got to be clear with these people. All right, you got to be clear with these people about, hey, that's a warranty level thing. I'm not paying for this. You're not charging me. She said, because she didn't know what the issue was. They just saw that the tire was flat. So she didn't know what I told the other person. This becomes, and they shouldn't be making this mistake. This is like the telephone game. So I spoke to the roadside assistants and I told them what happened. They clearly did not convey the message to Stacy, who I just talked to. She works at the service department because I already told the other people that. These are the people in Indonesia. I told them what the issue was. They didn't get the message across to Stacy, so she's talking to me as if she knows nothing. I had to explain it to her again. It was a minor thing. It only took me 30 seconds, but that shouldn't happen. Y'all notice it? That shouldn't happen. That message that I gave to the first person should have got across to this person. These are kind of little things that I notice when people are doing business. It's these little things that they miss, these little details. This should not happen. But anyway, let's continue. A couple more questions and we'll wrap this up, folks. So Lahek said, I tip high at restaurants because I had the job. I get it, Lahek. I had the job too, but I don't tip high at restaurants because I had the job. Now, you might have had it further into life than I did. I had it when I was in my teens. But nah, I tip based on, I'm looking at the energy and the presence of the person. If they're trying, I will tip more. If they're not trying, I'm not tipping them more. I'm looking at your effort. I'm looking at your intention. Do you look like you're intending to give me great service, or do you look like you're just passing time? If it's just passing time, I ain't tipping you shit. I'll give you 18%, maybe 15, but that's it. No more. So OG McCoy, yes, the PSI. Yes, that's the thing I was telling Stacy. Dave Jenkins said, my teenage daughter learned real quick to tip appropriately when someone took a bite from her sandwich. Dave, I don't know if you're joking or not. Dave, I think you're joking. Because Dave, if someone took a bite from your daughter's sandwich, I think you go into the back and beat up the cook. I don't think you would tell your daughter, oh, you got to tip more. Or maybe you're talking about Uber Eats. If that happened, Dave, I'm assuming you're joking. But assuming you're telling the truth, if that really happened, no, I'm kicking somebody's ass. I'm not tipping you more. Like, you're not. So what? You're teaching me? I got to give you more money by punishing me? No, I'm kicking somebody's ass. I'm going to punish you. That ain't happening. So I'm going to take that as a joke. Trev said exactly. Are you earning my tip or act as if it's owed to you? That's correct. You got to earn the tip, folks. Tips are not owed. They're earned. But Heck said most are young. They all need money, not for bad service, though. But Heck, I agree with you that when they're young, that they do need money. At the same time, I'll push back and say that when they're younger, they may not need the money as much because they don't have bills and a family to take care of, like somebody who's 35 working as a weight person. The person who's 35 working as a weight person should understand that because they need the money more, they better go above and beyond the service. Whereas if you're 17, all right, what you getting the money for? So you go to the movies on the weekend? No, you don't need it. You want it. There's a difference. And yes, I understand that they need money. So here's where you and I may differ slightly here, Bahet, is that I do not see it as my responsibility to supplement somebody's income because they need it. That's their responsibility. And your responsibility is, how do you figure out how to provide more value in the marketplace so that the money you need is there, not so that somebody else gives it to you because you need it. It's just a difference in approach, at least if I'm understanding you correctly. I get what you're saying. I don't think you're wrong. I just have a different approach. I'm an absolutist on a lot of these things. You just said I tip based on above and beyond efforts and attitude and season. Fair enough. Me too. Dave said, absolutely. Uber Eats, true story, Charlotte, North Carolina. Oh, so it was an Uber Eats driver? Oh, no, I'm going to find that Uber Eats driver and kick their ass. No, you don't bite in don't do nothing to my food. You do something to my food, that's a problem. There's going to be a physical altercation if I can find that person. So, Dave, I would not say that your daughter learns to tip more because of that. Fuck that. If that happens to my sandwich, I'm never ordering there again. I'm calling Uber Eats. I might see if I'm going to call my lawyer, see if I can file a lawsuit, and I'm going to make sure Uber Eats not only refunds me for that entire order, they also going to give me a gift card for another $50 because of the inconvenience that I had to go through. But no way am I taking that as a teaching lesson. Dave, that's crazy. Trev said, I earned my money. I need a reason to give it to you. It wasn't given to me as a requirement. That's right. I agree with you, Trev. But Heck said, it's my tithing. Fair enough. I respect that. Everybody has their way. Everybody has their way of giving. And if your way of giving is you want to give back to an industry that you've been in because you know what it's like, I respect that. That's not the way I go about it, but I don't have a problem with your way. Duke's mom said, Dave, that's crazy. So Uber drivers will eat your food. You don't tip. Yeah, that's crazy. So Dave, again, I don't know if you're telling the truth. You said it's true. I believe that it happened, but what I'm finding crazy is that you said your daughter learned that she should tip appropriately as a response to that. I think that's crazy. That's crazy. If I open up my sandwich, there's a bite taken out of it, I'm hunting down the driver. And me and that driver are going to have a problem. So, no, I don't take that as a teaching lesson. So let me wrap this up, folks. We're at 10:40. I got to go to the bathroom. I hope everybody got value out of this topic here today. I didn't have to use my logical fallacy soundboards here today. I'll play it a couple times before we wrap up because I didn't get to use it that much today. But don't worry, everybody. When we go back to talking about Donald Trump and the government and MAGA, etc., I'll have plenty of opportunity to use this. So if you didn't get to hear me use it a lot today, don't worry. Come back tomorrow. Next time the topic is Donald Trump, don't worry. You're going to hear this sound a whole lot. So Trev said, what are your thoughts on tip displays on checkout screens or tablets before a payment is taken? It depends on what is being sold. If the people are nice, I will tip them. If they're nice, I'll give a tip. I'll go get some water ice. I'll tip. It's like the water ice order is like $10. I'll tip you $1.50. If you're nice and respectful, I will tip people if they're nice. If you just have a positive attitude, I will tip you just for being nice. If you're a jerk, I'm not tipping you shit. And I'll put 0 right there in front of you and let you see me do it. See, I don't have a problem doing that. A lot of people have a problem with that. I don't have a problem doing it. I'll put 0 right in your fucking face and let you see that I did 0 and then just only pay the bill. And that's it. Carlos said, look up food delivery drivers on YouTube or IG and see how frequently drivers mess with your food. Yeah, I've heard about that. That's why I don't. Well, it's another reason why I don't order. But the main reason I don't order because they take too long and the food's not fresh by the time it gets to my house. I will go get my food. If I want food, I will order it from the store. I will go to the store and get it myself. I don't like middlemen in between my food as a general principle. BNS said, tip service is the culture in the U.S. Servers are just trying to work and make a living in this culture. Bianna, I agree. Tipping service is a culture, especially in restaurants. Yes, that's why I said I'll never give a 0 tip at a restaurant. I don't think I've done that. I don't give a 0 at a restaurant. But if I go to a restaurant and you're not good, you're just average, I'll give you the minimum. I'll give you 15%, 18%. If you're good, I'll give you 20%. And if you're exceptional, I'll give you 25%. But I don't agree with the concept that just because you are working as a server that you are owed a tip. I don't agree with that concept. So if I'm talking to someone who's going to a restaurant and they say, Dre, should I give a tip? I'll say yes. Why? Because the general custom in America, you eat at a restaurant, you give a tip. It's accepted as what it is. You go to Europe, a lot of places in Europe, they don't accept tips. You don't tip at all, 0. Now, if I'm talking to someone who is a waitress at a restaurant and they say, Dre, I'm about to go to my job today as a waitress, how much should I expect to get in tips? I say 0. Mofo, 0. You should expect 0. If you want more than 0, your service better be above and beyond. You better smile. You better be nice. You better be a suggestive seller. You better be anticipatory. You better notice when someone needs their water refill. You should ask them you should sell very well when it comes to the desserts and the drinks and the coffees and all that stuff. Do a good job of your job and you will get more money. If you don't do a good job, you should not expect anything other than your damn salary. So depending on who I'm talking to, I have a different answer. Why? Because my frame is you earn your outcomes. That's it. You're not owed anything. Again, I'm an absolutist when it comes to this stuff, folks. So, Bianna, I get what you're saying. Servers are just trying to work and make a living. Well, everybody's trying to work and make a living. Am I owed more of my money that I earned through my work to you just because you're doing a service job? The answer is no, I'm not. So I go work as a bank manager and I made some money. Now I go to a restaurant to eat food. Do I owe you extra just because you're working at the restaurant? No, I don't owe you extra. Are you giving me extra because I work at a bank? No, you ain't giving me extra food for free. So why do I got to give you extra money for free? So this frame that you're using here, Bianna, I get it. You're not wrong, but at the same time, I don't agree. Because this frame that people tend to use this frame on different things. Oh, somebody's in this position and they're just trying to do this thing. That's an appeal to emotion. And then they frame it as if you don't go along with that, then you're doing something wrong. I don't agree with that. I'm at 10% battery, so I had to wrap this up, folks. Lacey River, I appreciate you guys. 120,000 likes. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, everybody, for helping. Miss Chief J said, you concur. I appreciate you. You earn your outcome. That's right. That's why it's called work on your game, folks. This is a results-based business, performance-based business, presence-based business. Want to work with me? Go to the links in my profile. I'll tell y'all one more thing before we wrap up. I'll mention one book today, The Mirror of Motivation. The Self-Guide to Self-Discipline. Get this book for free by going to mirrorofmotivation.com. Go to the links in my profile. You can get this book free. Just cover the shipping. Mirrorofmotivation.com. Tomorrow we'll be back 8 o'clock Eastern. Hopefully I'll have my car back tomorrow. 8 a.m. Eastern we'll be back. Mirrorofmotivation.com. 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 Books free. Just cover the shipping. My battery's about to die on me. Everybody have a great Wednesday. I will see you all tomorrow morning. We are out of here. Night out, I only get a loaner if they need the car more than today. If they need it longer than today, then I'll get the loaner. But I don't need it right now. Hopefully they just finish it in an hour or two and I'll go get my car. And I'll go get that $100 Lyft ride that they owe me so I can go get it. But everybody have a great Wednesday. We're out of here. See y'all tomorrow.